Chapter 1070. The prophecy water lily's exclusive skill, heaven's secret appointment, allowed Ji Feng to predict the future of a person he came into contact with for a period of time. Although it couldn't seek fortune and avoid calamity, this kind of prediction, with a warning effect, could completely make people more vigilant. And by taking sufficient precautions in advance, it would affect reality. Aside from the mess behind Ji Feng, Lin Yuan was very satisfied with accepting Ji Feng as a member of Sky City. The significance of Ji Feng's existence was no longer as simple as an emperor-level expert. Compared to Ji Feng's strength, Ji Feng's strategic significance was more important. For so many years, Ji Feng had been living in poverty. He would often hide it under the black robe. More importantly, it was to avoid the pursuit of the whale ocean trade's 10,000 banners. After understanding Ji Feng and taking him into Sky City, Lin Yuan no longer needed to stay in the royal capital's Creation Master Guild. Lin Yuan took out the treasured artifact made from the treasure cave golden toad's stomach pouch and skin and said to Endless Summer, "When you and Ji Feng, put away your two fays first. Then, Endless Summer, when you and Ji Feng, the three of you will stay in this prized artifact for a while. It will also be good for you to go to a place where there is no one around and help the Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily break through to Myth 3. After putting Endless Summer, when you and Ji Feng into the treasure cave golden cicada's skin and stomach pouch, Lin Yuan extended his hand. He looked at the strange seed in his hand that was no different from an ordinary seed. After checking, Lin Yuan really didn't know what this strange plant seed was used for. However, Lin Yuan knew that this strange plant seed was definitely something incredible. There might even be a big secret hidden within. All abnormalities within the seed had been erased by the golden light released by Morbius. Therefore, he could leave this seed by his side without worry. The spirit lock spatial zone was of great importance, so he did not place the seed in it. Instead, he carefully placed the seed in the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Lin Yuan then circulated his spiritual power and went through several nodes to teleport to the outskirts of the royal capital, where Endless Summer had transcended the creation calamity. On a huge island that was hit by the waves, all kinds of bright and misty lights flashed. Peridot, blue tourmaline, emerald, purple cat's eye, pink crystal jade, sunstone, and various other precious gems were piled up on the island like grains of sand. A beam of light shone on the gemstones of various colors. The edges and corners of the gems of various colors shone wantonly, dyeing the entire island with a layer of exquisite and ever-changing luster. 7 towers of different postures stood tall on this island paved with gemstones of various colors. At this time, in front of each tower stood a man wearing a robe with the same pattern as the tower in front of them. The man who was standing in front of the pagoda, wearing a long robe and directing everyone to chant, was the leader of every pagoda in the pagoda canon. There were 32 chanters kneeling in front of the leader. The chanters kneeling on the ground devoutly sang a melodious song according to the leader's instructions. Apart from the leaders and chanters in front of the 7 towers, there was also a huge tower pit. The tower above the tower pit had disappeared, but there was still a leader and 32 chanters singing devoutly in front of the tower pit. Even without one tower, the Sky Garden, which was originally supported by a bridge from each of the 8 towers with different postures, was still stable. It was not affected by the loss of one tower at all. The Sky Garden was still filled with statues of different postures, just like before. Regardless of whether these statues were broken or not, they all became more lively under the baptism of the Golden Fountain. The will, rules, and even the world contained in the statues were continuously baptized by the Golden Fountain. Following the splashing water of the Golden Fountain, the water flowed into the clear pool under the fountain, causing sparkling and translucent splashes to appear. It made the golden pool look like a huge container that contained will, rules, and the world. At this time, there were 8 chairs beside the huge round table in the center of the Sky Garden. They were arranged in pairs, and they seemed to sit on equal footing. However, There were only 7 people sitting on the 8 chairs, and 6 of them had clearly just gotten into a conflict. The auras of the 6 people were opposing each other, and they did not give way to each other. Among the 7 people present, there was only one figure, whose whole body was hidden under a rose-red long robe, sitting comfortably and lazily on the chair. It was as if the 6 people arguing in front of her were just irrelevant scenery. Suddenly, a short-haired woman with hollow eyes giggled like a sickly girl and said rudely, "Second page of Revival. You are too greedy. It's true that you came up with that plan, but all of us are helping you. It's not time to reap the rewards yet, and you want to touch our common spoils of war. I won't agree to this." As she spoke, the eyes of the short-haired woman with hollow eyes glowed. The glint in the short-haired woman's eyes seemed to contain all the sins in the world. Hearing the short-haired woman's words, a girl with thick glasses who looked like a girl next door stood up from the table. The girl gently curled her hands in front of her chest and chanted as if she was praying. Revival needs to be bathed in blood to be dazzling. Apart from the 8 pages of death, no one else helped me in the early stages. I was the one who set everything up myself. Third page of Eternal Sin, you are the greedy one. If you continue to watch and do nothing in the future plan, you won't even get 1/10 of what you have now. The girl who was chanting suddenly erupted with a monstrous aura. After this monstrous aura appeared, it directly collided with the aura of the 3rd page of Eternal Sin. At this time, sitting next to the 2nd page of Revival, the figure hidden in a rose-red robe coughed lightly. The expression on the face of the 3rd page of Eternal Sin, who was competing with the 2nd page of Revival, gradually became ferocious, and his delicate facial features also looked a little terrifying. However, in the end, the 3rd page of Eternal Sin didn't say anything. He just glanced at the figure covered in a rose-red robe next to the 2nd page of Revival with fear. Seeing that the 3rd page of Eternal Sin didn't say anything more, the cold man who sat like a snake showed a neurotic smile on his face. He cracked his mouth and said, "In the Sky Garden, the wax figure that I made for less than a month was cleaned by the baptism spring. The new batch of wax figure materials has improved the specifications. How can I finish so many creation breed materials by myself?" Speaking of this, the cold man who sat like a snake changed the topic. "So, I asked for 1/20th more of the spoils of war." As soon as the man who sat like a snake finished speaking, he was ridiculed by a middle-aged man who looked very righteous. "The 8 pages of death, you only know how to do some handicrafts. Since when do you have the right to bargain? The materials you use to make the wax figure are all my toys. The creation breed toys have all been given to you. Why are you still wasting time here?" End of this chapter. Chapter 1071. No matter what the righteous-looking uncle said, his words always seemed to be filled with sincerity and courage. At first glance, anyone would think that this seemingly righteous uncle was a good person. Furthermore, he was a heroic figure. Just his looks alone were enough to make people want to give him their all without the slightest bit of wariness. However, this seemingly righteous uncle's words were filled with disregard for life. It was as if the lives of all living creatures were just playthings in his hands. When the 8 pages of death heard the righteous-looking middle-aged man's words, even though he still had a strange expression on his face, his mouth opened wider and wider. It was as if there was a monster hiding in his mouth, and the monster would break out at any time to attack the righteous-looking uncle. Upon seeing 8-page death's gaping mouth, the golden-haired and golden-eyed 7th page war, who had been silent all this while, frowned and said in a cold and dignified voice, "Shut up. 8 pages of death. I can smell the disgusting reptile smell in your mouth." 7th page war's words made the expression on 8th page death's face become even more neurotic, and its mouth opened wider. It was as if the skin on the surface of the body was just a coat for the life in the mouth. The righteous-looking uncle laughed when he heard 7th page war's words. However, before he could finish laughing, the righteous-looking man was targeted by 7th page war. 6 pages of whip, your tower of whip is too slow. The 5 pages of truth, which had been inactive all this while, have already gone to the Agon continent. Even the Tower of Truth has been moved to the Deep Brahman Federation. The righteous-looking uncle was 6th Page Whip. His expression did not change when he heard 7th Page War's words, but he slammed his hand on the table. What has yours truly speed got to do with you? 7th Page War, you wiped out the Dark Continent's Dark Federation. Even if you let your Ash Squad surround the Dark Continent and let the Cancer Phase wreak havoc on the Dark Continent from 36 directions, the people of the Dark Continent still managed to escape. Do you want the entire world to know that our pagoda cannon has begun its operation? Seeing that the situation was gradually getting out of control, the girl next door, 2nd Page, Fuxing, suddenly looked aggrieved. Then, 2nd Page Revival's tone changed, and the sound it made was like a mournful song. If we don't get down to business and continue quarreling, my angel of death won't be able to stop himself from coming out to sing. Hearing 2nd Page of Renaissance's mournful voice, everyone got used to it and stopped arguing. They were ready to discuss the upcoming business together. Seeing that they were about to get down to business, the figure hidden in the rose-red robe sat up straight. Right at this moment, 2nd Page Revival, who was originally standing up and preparing to speak, suddenly revealed a shocked expression on his face. Crimson gold. My eyes are filled with crimson gold light. 2nd Page, Fuxing clenched his fists. His eyes turned gray in an instant. He stared at the southeast through the garden in the sky. Sensing 2nd Page Revival's abnormality, 6th Page Whip asked, "What's wrong? Did you find anything from the seeds of the gardener's konjac?" When the 2nd Page of Renaissance's eyes turned gray, apart from the figure in the red robe, there was no one else. Without exception, everyone's gaze was fixed on 2nd Page Revival. 3rd Page Eternal Sin, who had short hair and hollow eyes, suddenly discovered that 2nd Page Revival's sin value had suddenly increased by a large margin. This made 3 Page Eternal Sin's face immediately show an expression of interest. At the same time, the 3 pages of Eternal Sin also thought of the 5 pages of Truth. The sin value of the 5 pages of Truth, who had gone to the Deep Brahman continent that day, was about to disappear. Until now, the 3rd Page of Eternal Sin had not figured out why the sin value on the 5th Page of Truth would disappear. Although the 3rd Page Eternal Sin had some guesses, whenever he thought of the 5 pages of Truth's main body and the contracted sacred source life form, the 3rd Page Eternal Sin felt that his guess was unlikely. However, the 3rd Page Eternal Sin was certain of one thing. The 2nd Page Revival must have provoked something incredible. At the same time, the 3rd Page Eternal Sin had a strong interest in the thing that could increase the 2nd Page Revival sin value by such a large margin. At that moment, the 2nd Page Revival's voice was no longer melodious or mournful. Instead, it spoke with a lifeless accent. One of the 3 Gardener's Konjac seeds that I planted in the Radiance Federation is out of my control. After saying that, the 2nd Page Revival paused slightly and changed his words. A crimson gold thing erased all my imprints on the Gardener's Konjac, including my aura. The 2nd Page Revival's words made everyone's faces surge with horror. Wasn't the Gardener's Konjac the disgusting thing that the 2nd Page Revival cultivated from that place? How could this thing be controlled by someone? How did the 2nd Page Revival's aura get erased? At that moment, the figure under the rose-red robe spoke for the first time since the start of the meeting. The voice under the rose-red robe was very pleasant to listen to. The voice was mixed with a magnetic low frequency and a pleasant high frequency. It actually made people unable to distinguish the gender for a moment. The Azure Federation will send a mission to the Radiance Federation. I don't know the purpose of the Azure Federation going to the Radiance Federation this time, but the person leading the team is Lan Sun. With Lan Sun leading the team, the purpose of the Azure Federation's trip is definitely not simple. In the next few months, the Radiance Federation will definitely be in chaos. Since the 2nd Page Revival's Gardener's Konjac seed has a problem in the Radiance Federation, a part of our plan must be completed in the Radiance Federation. This time, why don't 2 of you go to the Radiance Federation and complete the plan? Then, bring back the Gardener's Konjac seed. This kind of thing definitely cannot be left outside. The person who controls the Gardener's Konjac seed can sense other people who are parasitized by the Gardener's Konjac seed. If a gardener's konjac seed is left outside, it will not be good for the implementation of our plan. As soon as the voice faded, the second page revival, who had returned to her girl next door state, obediently pushed up the glasses on her face and chanted, "It's my gardener's konjac that lost a seed. This time, let me go to the Radiance Federation." After the second page revival finished speaking for a long time, the other pages did not join the conversation about going to the Radiance Federation with him. At that moment, the figure hidden in the rose-red robe spoke again. "Since the second page revival has taken the initiative to go, the 6-page whip will be accompanied by you. Your sacred source life form, the Black Mass Cup, happens to be compatible with the second page revival's sacred source life form, the Death Messenger Angel. Keep a low profile when you go to the Radiance Federation this time. Don't leave in such a sorry state like the previous time when the 5th page truth went to the Radiance Federation." After saying that, the figure in the rose-red robe no longer spoke. It was so quiet that it was as if she had never participated in the 8th page council. When the 6th page whip, who had always disliked the 2nd page revival, heard the words of the figure in the rose-red robe, he did not refute it even though he was extremely unwilling. Chapter 1072. The 8-page meeting was still going on, but the wind blowing southeast was getting stronger and stronger. The wind swept up the yellow sand, waves, and withered leaves toward the Radiance continent. A storm was unknowingly gathering on the Radiance continent. Just as all sorts of winds were blowing toward the Radiance Federation, the Radiance Federation's army suddenly appeared. He had teleported to the place where endless summer had experienced the creation calamity and become a creation breed through the ethereal jellyfish's ability node. It didn't take long for Lin Yuan, who had revisited this place, to be stunned by the scene in front of him. He wondered if he had come to the wrong place. This place was originally a desolate stone field outside the capital. After endless summer experienced the calamity of world creation here, this desolate stone land became unrecognizable from the calamity of world creation. However, in just a few days, this desolate stone land actually had giant trees that were nearly 20 meters tall and green grass that almost reached Lin Yuan's neck. These trees and grass were extremely ordinary plants, and they couldn't even be considered as fays. It was unknown what kind of shocking fortuitous encounter these grass and trees, which couldn't even be considered ordinary fays, had obtained. They had actually transformed into elite fays in just a few days. Lin Yuan looked into the distance. His eyes were filled with lush greenery, and everything in front of him was full of vitality. It was as if they were in the depths of an endless forest. However, the vegetation in the distance was not as lush as the vegetation under his feet. It could be said that the place he had teleported to was the origin of all the vegetation growth. Suddenly, he thought of the rain of flowers that had fallen from endless summer's branches during the creation calamity. It must have been that falling red that had given this place a chance of life. It could be said that this vitality was a calamity for endless summer, but at the same time, it was also an opportunity for the tens of thousands of living beings here. If you were to open the treasure cave, golden toad skin, and stomach pouch and put endless summer, when you and G phone down, the treasure cave, golden toad's treasure cave, golden toad skin, and stomach pouch, with endless summer's help, the Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily advance from the peak of Myth 2 to Myth 3. Even if endless summer could use the power of the Rule World to protect the Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily, not letting them suffer any damage. However, it definitely wouldn't be able to protect the tens of thousands of living beings who had just obtained fortuitous encounters. Fortuitous encounters were hard to come by, let alone one obtained from a mortal object. He activated the source sand and let the 4 black wings formed by the day and night spirit silver's feathers seep out of the source sand. Lin Yuan flapped his 4 black wings and flew into the distance. After flying for nearly half an hour, Lin Yuan found another desolate wasteland without any living creatures. After landing on this wasteland, Lin Yuan shook the treasure cave, golden toad skin, and stomach sack. Endless summer, when you and G Foam were released. After being released, when you and Endless Summer were still worried about Lin Yuan's situation. The two of them went forward to confirm that Lin Yuan was fine before being relieved. At this moment, Ji Feng seemed to have changed into a different person. His face was filled with vitality. His brows were no longer tightly furrowed. It could be said that Ji Feng had already lived the way a person who held hope should live. Although the new Ji Feng was still filled with hatred, he was no longer confused about the future. Ji Feng planned to risk his life to repay Lin Yuan during these 3 years and take revenge 3 years later. If he died, everything would disappear. If he was lucky enough to succeed in his revenge, he would return to Lin Yuan's side and continue to fulfill his duties as a servant. As for the Karma, Gladiolus, and Water Lily's advancement to Myth 3, Ji Feng was no longer worried. With the Monarch-class creation breed endless summer around, the Myth 3 world cleansing was just a small matter. Even if the Karma, Gladiolus, and Water Lily broke through to Myth 3 at the same time and descended 2 world cleanses, endless summer could easily deal with them. At that moment, Lin Yuan felt a chaotic and disorderly wind rushing toward him and the others from all directions. The sky was filled with thick clouds, but these clouds were not formed by cumulonimbus clouds. Instead, the strong wind gathered the thin flowing clouds together, causing the thin flowing clouds to stack and form a huge and thick white cloud cluster. This was a typical strong wind phenomenon. Sensing the new weather, Lin Yuan immediately summoned Gray out of the spirit-locked spatial zone. After Lin Yuan summoned Gray, Endless Summer's pupils suddenly shrank. Endless Summer took a deep look at Lin Yuan and Gray, which was summoned by Lin Yuan, and then immediately circulated the world of enlightenment's power. It shielded the space within a 1-kilometer radius, preventing anyone from probing this area. Even if there was a life form stronger than Endless Summer and discovered the abnormality here, if it wanted to break through Endless Summer's world of enlightenment's power to investigate, Endless Summer will be able to immediately defend against it. After Lin Yuan summoned Gray, it happily flew around Lin Yuan a few times. Then, it plunged into Lin Yuan's arms and flopped nonstop. Although Lin Yuan knew that Gray liked to act coquettishly, he did not expect Gray, whose body had recovered and transformed, to like sticking to him even more than genius. Through his perception, Lin Yuan knew that this little fellow was greedy for the current strong wind phenomenon. However, it insisted on staying in his arms and did not even absorb the strong wind phenomenon. Lin Yuan said helplessly, "Gray, go to the sky and absorb the strong wind phenomenon. Gray, go to the sky and absorb the strong wind phenomenon. This way, you will have another ability, and your exclusive skill, Pact of the Precious Jade, will be able to condense a new precious jade pattern. At that time, you will have one more jade beast under your control." After witnessing the power of Gray's abilities after absorbing the natural weather, Lin Yuan had long been looking forward to the abilities Gray would obtain after absorbing the new weather. At the same time, he would occasionally guess what the treasure jade beast formed by the new jade pattern would look like. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's command, Gray reluctantly rose into the air from Lin Yuan's embrace and turned into a cloud that covered an area of nearly 2,000 square meters. The strong wind in the strong wind phenomenon was a little too strong. Lin Yuan stood on the ground and felt as though there were people pushing him from all directions. This was just the strength of the strong wind on the ground. The strong wind in the sky formed a much stronger airflow than on the ground. Gray, which was only a bronze, was obviously affected by the strong airflow. Lin Yuan was not surprised about this. Gray's weather cloud transformation might have turned Gray's body into a cloud. However, Gray was still a living being. Even if Gray had an affinity with weather, some violent weather would still have a serious impact on Gray. However, this impact was infinitely reduced due to Gray's affinity with weather. Gray was very proficient in absorbing the clear sky chi image and the cloudy sky chi image. However, when it absorbed the snowy weather image, Lin Yuan could feel Gray shivering from the cold. Chapter 1073. The snowy weather's influence on Gray was the same as the gale weather's influence on Gray now. Gray was contending with the violent airflow in the sky, so that the cloud it had turned into would not be blown away by the gale. At the same time, Gray also started to absorb the gale weather. In fact, Lin Yuan was not worried about Gray's resistance to the weather. As Gray absorbed more and more of the phenomenon, its rank would also increase. When Gray's grade reached a certain level, the intensity of the cloud it had turned into would also increase. This way, when Gray absorbed the weather, it would not be affected by some extreme weather. For example, if it encountered the thunderstorm weather, even if it knew that Gray would obtain a new ability after absorbing the thunderstorm weather, its strength would still increase. However, Lin Yuan still did not dare to let Gray absorb the thunderstorm weather. It was very likely that before Gray could absorb the thunderstorm weather's lightning would severely injure it. Sensing the increasingly messy wind, Lin Yuan knew that the gale weather would not stop for a while. Lin Yuan simply let Gray freely absorb the gale weather in the sky. Then, he turned to Ji Feng and said, Ji Feng, summon your two-phase. Ji Feng, summon your two-phase. Although the Karma Sword Orchid suffered some injuries to help me, it doesn't matter. Anyway, the Karma Sword Orchid doesn't need to endure the world cleansing. According to the agreement, I will take 10% of each phase world cleansing. The remaining 90% will also help the Karma Sword Orchid recover quickly. Upon hearing that, Ji Feng immediately summoned the Karma Gladiolus and the Command Water Lotus. He also removed the mimicry of the Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily. After removing their mimicry, the Karma Sword Orchid and the Command Water Lotus grew in the wind. The Karma Sword Orchid turned into a 5-meter-tall giant orchid with dozens of dark green leaves growing all over its body. The two sides of the Karma Sword Orchid's dark green leaves flashed with cold light like sharp swords. The stalk growing from the center of the leaves was filled with black and white orchids that constantly swallowed and spat out light-type energy. The surging light-type energy made Lin Yuan feel that the surrounding environment had become brighter. At the same time, Lin Yuan felt a strong power of karma from the Karma Sword Orchid. This kind of power that could control karma had the smell of laws. Presumably, the laws that this Karma Sword Orchid controlled were the karma laws that could control karma. The water lily was still inconspicuous after removing its camouflage. The lotus bud was still hidden in the lotus leaves. As for the advanced water lily's leaf shape, it was no different from ordinary lotus species phase. If one had to make a detailed comparison, one could at most say that the color of the lotus leaves was a little darker. Among all the myth breed phase Lin Yuan had seen, which one was the most inconspicuous? In that case, it would definitely be the water lily. But looks didn't mean anything. This seemingly inconspicuous myth breed fae, the prophecy water lotus, was actually a fae with powerful abilities that could predict the future. Presumably, the foretelling water lily had grasped the foretelling law. Right at this moment, the Karma Sword Orchid and the water lotus suddenly erupted with powerful spiritual power. Then, his powerful mental power began to materialize. A man with black hair and white eyes appeared in front of the Karma Gladiolus. He looked to be in his 20s or 30s. After ordering the water lily, a young woman in her early 20s appeared in front of him. She had an ordinary appearance, but an extremely pure and holy aura. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan knew that the images of the black-haired, white-eyed man and the ordinary-looking, holy woman were the manifestations of the Karma Gladiolus and the pre-command water lotus spiritual energy. Although Myth 2 plant species phase could not take human form like animal species phase, they had grasped this spiritual power materialization ability. It was just that this materialized spiritual energy couldn't be too far away from the main body. When he had first met Endless Summer, it had also used this ability. Presumably, after the Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily of Advance had taken human forms, they were also trying to materialize their appearances with their mental energy. While Lin Yuan was probing the Karma Sword Orchid and the Command Water Lotus, the Karma Sword Orchid suddenly appeared. Lin Yuan saw the black-haired, white-eyed man formed by the Karma Sword Orchid's spiritual energy slowly look at the woman with an ordinary appearance and holy temperament. "Renji, why are you acting so weird today?" A confused expression appeared on the face of the ordinary-looking and holy woman that the water lily had transformed into. "Janine, what's wrong? How am I strange?" Upon hearing that, the black-haired, white-eyed man revealed a shy expression. "You look so good." Upon hearing the Karma Sword Orchid's words, the water lily also revealed a shy expression. The love and affection between the two of them were about to overflow. The words of the Karma Sword Orchid and the water lily made Lin Yuan endless summer, and when you feel a thick layer of goosebumps. Why do they start to forcefully open someone's mouth and feed them dog food? Moreover, the taste of his dog food was too tacky. Previously, when Lin Yuan had found out about the relationship between Duan He and Purple Demon, he had felt that he had opened a door to a new world. Duan He had let Lin Yuan know that fays could actually be raised as wives. Now, Jifeng had opened another door for Lin Yuan. Raising fays with feelings could also nurture a pair of lovers, and then they could be together and eat dog food every day. At that moment, Lin Yuan saw Jifeng walk between the water lily and the Karma gladiolus. He reached out and placed one hand on the shoulder of the black-haired, white-eyed man, while the other hand on the shoulder of the ordinary-looking and holy woman that the water lily had transformed into. The atmosphere between the three of them was very harmonious. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan revealed a puzzled expression. The two of them were dating, so why was Jifeng going over to join the fun? When Jifeng saw the puzzled expression on Lin Yuan's face, he smiled and explained without any shyness. "It's very natural for the three of us to be together." Upon hearing Jifeng's words, Lin Yuan felt as though his entire body was splitting apart. At the same time, Jifeng's words had once again opened a new door for Lin Yuan. It turned out that nurturing a pair of Fey lovers could not only be a CP, but they could also be a CP. Could this be Jifeng's true happiness? The world of adults was truly too difficult to understand. Jifeng cuddled with the Karma Sword Orchid and the water lily for a while before speaking. "Jianyin, Lotus Awareness, both of you will trigger the world cleansing. Endless Summer will help you withstand a world cleansing's attack. You just have to wait for the world cleansing to end and the world grace to descend." The Karma gladiolus and water lily shrunk their necks. Clearly, the pressure from Endless Summer's aura had left them with lingering fear. Chapter 1074. However, when they heard Jifeng say that Endless Summer could help them through the world cleansing, the Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily quickly expressed their gratitude to Endless Summer. When Endless Summer heard this, she hurriedly waved her hand. Then, she solemnly and sincerely apologized to Jifeng, ordering the Water Lily and Karma Sword Orchid in advance for releasing their auras. Jifeng, the Karma Sword Orchid, and Water Lily expressed their understanding. In that situation, it would be strange if Endless Summer did not guard against them. After apologizing, Endless Summer said, "You guys just need to trigger the world cleansing together. Leave everything else to me." After speaking, Endless Summer stood in place with its hands behind its back, waiting for the arrival of the Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily's world cleansing. The Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily quickly released their Pinnacle Suzerain/Myth 2 phase auras. A black and white Karma Law rune and a Prediction Law rune formed by a holy aura rushed into the sky. Sensing the auras emitted by the Karma Sword Orchid and Water Lily, two large holes appeared in the sky. Sensing the aura emitted by the Karma Sword Orchid and the Water Lily Law rune, two large holes appeared in the sky. The big holes released thick, dark red flames that were like viscous liquid. Thick, dark red flames were released from a hole. These flames were like viscous liquid. The world cleansing that plant-type phase had to go through to Myth 3 was usually a world cleansing that focused on fire-type attacks. The world cleansing that plant-type phase had to go through to Myth 3 was generally a world cleansing that focused on fire-type attacks. It could be said that this world cleansing was extremely lethal to plant-type phase. When Endless Summer had gone through the world cleansing, the sky had also descended a world cleansing that focused on fire-type attacks. Suddenly, Lin Yuan realized that Gray was excited when it saw the two big holes in the sky. It was about to drill into the two big holes that the world cleansing had created. Lin Yuan hurriedly stopped Gray with cold sweat. Currently, Gray's rank was only at the bronze rank. If Gray entered the two large holes, it would definitely die. If it drilled into those two big holes, Lin Yuan would probably have to say goodbye to Gray forever. Even if it was a blessed Fae, it still had no chance of survival under the world cleansing of Myth 3. After being stopped by Lin Yuan, Gray left the two big holes that the world cleansing had created, feeling wronged. It was like a good baby in the distance, obediently absorbing the strong wind aura. Through Gray's actions, Lin Yuan knew that as a blessed Fae, Gray could absorb the world cleansing. In other words, the heavenly baptism itself was a kind of phenomenon. This discovery made Lin Yuan look forward to it and excited. On one hand, he was looking forward to Gray's ability after absorbing the world cleansing. On the other hand, he was looking forward to when Gray could grow to the point where it could absorb the world cleansing. Soon, the combined attack of the two world baptisms descended from the sky. In Lin Yuan's opinion, this wave of attacks had the feeling of heavenly fire burning a city. Endless Summer did not move in the face of the incoming attack. Just as the attacks were about to land on the Karma Sword, Orchid, and Water Lily, Endless Summer waved her hand and shouted, "Flower Tree Bind." Along with Endless Summer's voice, several flexible and thick roots emerged from the ground under Endless Summer's feet. These roots were mixed together, and they were like two raging dragons as they welcomed the two heavenly flames that descended from the Myth 3 world baptism. After the dragon-like roots came into contact with the heavenly fire, the roots suddenly swept towards the heavenly fire furiously. At the same time, densely packed willow branches grew out of the roots, and the willow branches kept sprouting new leaves. Not only were these willow branches and new leaves not burned by the dark red heavenly fire, but they also seemed to be wantonly absorbing the energy of the world baptism's heavenly fire. Finally, the willow branches' new leaves bore pinkish-purple flower buds in the heavenly fire. After the pinkish-purple flower buds grew, the world baptism's heavenly fire attack also started to gradually weaken. The flower buds that covered the sky were like ants that had been starving for countless years, desperately squeezing out the energy of the world baptism's heavenly fire. In an instant, the tree of flower buds bloomed into pinkish-purple hydrangea flowers. After the hydrangea flowers bloomed, the world baptism's heavenly fire attack's energy rapidly weakened. At this time, two fruits also appeared in the dense willow branches. After these two fruits grew, the Karma Sword, Orchid, and Water Lily's world baptism was completely eliminated. It could be said that Endless Summer's one attack was able to resist the Myth 3 world baptism, which was rather restrained against plant-type phase. This made Lin Yuan even more aware of the huge gap between creation breed phase and myth breed phase. This was a chasm that could not be easily crossed. Even though the Karma Sword, Orchid, and Water Lily's world baptism's heavenly fire attack had ended, Endless Summer's flowery tree, Binding Kill, had yet to end. The pinkish-purple hydrangea flowers and the lush willow branches that covered the sky were competing to wither, and the withered branches and petals were in a mess. It was as though the sky was filled with pinkish-purple hydrangea flowers and willow branches just to ferment these two new fruits. Endless Summer flew up and plucked the two bright red fruits when the sky of flowery trees turned to dust. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check Endless Summer's exclusive skill. Lin Yuan remembered that he had checked the Mother of Bloodbath's exclusive skill before, but he had never checked Endless Summer's. Especially after Endless Summer had become a creation breed, Lin Yuan had not used it. Previously, Lin Yuan had always regarded Endless Summer as a support, but now it seemed that Endless Summer's attack power was definitely not weak. Fey name: Endless Divine Dream Summer, Fey species, Brocade/Hydrangea, Fey grade, Monarch 1/10, Fey type, Wood/Psychic, Fey quality, I Creation Calamity abilities, Frowny Face Summer's Shooting Spear. With the flower vines as the shaft and the flowers as the blade, form a shooting spear with the armor-piercing effect to penetrate the target. Flower Ball Shotgun. The flower ball spins and scatters petals. Each petal will cause a cutting effect to the target. At the same time, the petal has a slight blood-sucking effect to replenish the energy consumed by the body. Shooting spear, 3,000 shots. Instantly condense 3,000 shooting spears that are connected to each other. When one of the spears hits the target, the other spears will automatically return to their positions. Midsummer cage. Uses the flowers and vines to form a cage world with summer as the origin. Uses the power of midsummer to confine everything in the cage. Mind stop. Uses the body's mind to affect the target's mind, causing the target's mind to be absent-minded for a moment. Thus, the target's body and soul cannot be controlled immediately. Flowering tree bind. The tree roots grow in reverse and bind the target. The roots will pierce through the target's body and grow inside the target's body. At the same time, it will absorb the target's energy and store it in the body, forming a forbidden fruit of summer. Willow flower covers the sky, releases all the energy and vitality in the body, allowing the energy and vitality to grow freely. The entire world will be filled with willow flowers. The more willow flowers there are, the stronger the increase in strength. At the same time, the willow flowers will frenziedly extract the energy from every target's body. Exclusive skill, frowny face, blossoming flowers. During the growth process, as the strength increases, the number of flowers that bloom will multiply. At the same time, it will increase the lethality of abilities that rely on the flowers. 1,000 apertures heart. The heart will open up 1,000 apertures. Every aperture in the heart will increase the control of the spirit power. Summer's end. Transform the body into summer and fuse the power of summer into a single point. After a single strike, the midsummer will end, withering everything. The flower vines will coil around and absorb the energy of everything and convert it into its own energy. When the body's energy reaches its limit, the overflowing energy will form an energy veil on the body's surface to resist the damage. When looking at Endless Summer's true data, Lin Yuan felt his scalp go numb. He had previously checked the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's true data, and it could be said that the Slaughter Sky Butterfly had given him quite a surprise. However, from the looks of it, Endless Summer's bloodline metamorphosis was much stronger than the Slaughter Sky Butterfly. Chapter 1075. The Slaughter Sky Butterfly was one of the 3 supreme bloodlines of butterfly phase. Based on true data, Endless Summer's bloodline was slightly stronger than the Slaughter Sky Butterfly's bloodline. What level had Endless Summer's bloodline reached? Moreover, Endless Summer's abilities were too strange. Endless Summer's shooting gun of summer, flower ball shotgun, 3,000 shots in Midsummer's cage. Should these 4 abilities really appear on a support-type Fae? Even if these 4 abilities appeared on a power offense-type Fae, they would still seem rather violent. Endless Summer's abilities were simply too unorthodox. At the same time, Lin Yuan felt that Endless Summer's Fae should not be called Endless Divine Dream Summer. It should be called Endless Divine Dream Absorb. Among them, Flower Tree Bind, Willow Cover the Sky, and Endless Summer's exclusive skill, Withering Everything, were all abilities that absorb the energy of other targets to feed back to itself. Even the offensive skill, the Flower Ball Shotgun, had the effect of absorbing the opponent's life force when it attacked and dealt damage to the target. The more Lin Yuan analyzed Endless Summer's abilities, the more he felt that Endless Summer was simply a juicer. When Endless Summer was fighting with others, it could constantly extract the energy of the opponent and the surrounding environment. As long as the target did not have an overwhelming advantage over Endless Summer could use its perverted extraction ability to fight forever. With Endless Summer's contracted sacred source life form, Arakawa Orchid Sprout, its endurance became even stronger. Arakawa Orchid Sprout added defense, orchids healed, and orchids healed souls. It could be said that Arakawa Orchid Sprout could perfectly provide all-round protection and endurance to Endless Summer from 3 aspects. When Arakawa Orchid Sprout produced more individuals in the swamp world, it would also provide Endless Summer with a huge amount of energy. It would allow Endless Summer, which was at full power, to turn into a perpetual juicer. After checking Endless Summer's true data, Lin Yuan realized that he had been underestimating Endless Summer's strength. Lin Yuan finally faced Endless Summer's power head-on. Just as Lin Yuan was lamenting Endless Summer's power, Endless Summer had already walked in front of him. It smiled and placed two red fruits that looked like tomatoes in Lin Yuan's hand. Each of these two summer burn fruits contains a Myth 3 Fire Element World cleansing attack. Lin Yuan, take these two summer burn fruits. When you encounter enemies, you can throw them out as hidden weapons. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan's eyelids twitched violently, and he hurriedly reached out to take the two tomato-sized summer burn fruits. Based on Endless Summer's true data and the flowery tree's binding kill, he clearly knew how this summer burn fruit was formed. The two summer burning fruits were left behind after Endless Summer's flowering tree binding kill absorbed the world cleansing. A summer burn fruit that contained the attack of a Myth 3 world baptism could be said to be a one-time strategic treasure. It was just that the area covered by the mythological 3 mirrors world baptism was simply too great. It was unable to target a single target. Using the summer burn fruit might harm innocent people. Even if it was used in the Divine Wood Federation, which was full of plants, it was likely to cause a large-scale disaster. He solemnly placed the two fruits into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box in case of emergencies. Then, he used Morbius' exclusive skill, Pure Land of Bliss, under the feet of the Karma Gladiolus and Water Lily. A large amount of white sand covered the area where the Karma Gladiolus and Water Lily were. Next, it was the moment that Lin Yuan had been looking forward to. He was finally going to obtain a large number of Spirit Chi crystals through the two Myth 3 world baptisms. It was said that it was easy to go from frugality to extravagance, but it was difficult to go from extravagance to frugality. That was the truth. Ever since Lin Yuan had used the Pure Land of Bliss to absorb the cold snow pines world grace from the world baptism, he had obtained a massive amount of Spirit Chi crystals. He could never forget the feeling of holding a massive amount of Spirit Chi crystals and using them at will. Radiance dollars were not omnipotent in the main world, but Spirit Chi crystals could solve most problems in the main world. Lin Yuan had been able to win the civil and martial duels at the Nyx General Assembly because of his special physique. However, in the martial duels, he had mainly relied on his sacred source life form, the sacred sword embracing queen. Lin Yuan had been using Blackie's exclusive skill, Spirit Purity Burst, when he had been fighting Zhongzhe. However, this ability could only be executed on the premise that his body was immune to elemental damage after receiving the law feedback from the princess dress. Without elemental immunity, even if Lin Yuan had excellent movement techniques and powerful combat skills, he would still be burned to ashes by Zhongzhe's Sea of Fire. Combat skills and movement techniques, which had been eliminated and forgotten by the times, could only be the icing on the cake in certain situations. Things like combat techniques and movement techniques, which had been eliminated and forgotten by the times, could only be used in certain situations as icing on the cake. During the battle with Zhongzhe, Lin Yuan did not want to summon his phase and expose his identity. On the one hand, Lin Yuan did not want to summon his phase and expose his identity during the battle with Zhongzhe. On the other hand, he really could not summon his phase. Even if it was the strongest Platinum I/Fantasy 3 Jasmine Lily or the Diamond X/Legend Ethereal Jellyfish, they would not even have a chance to resist. Under Zhongzhe's Burning Sky Ho's exclusive skill, Fire Fantasy Town, they would not even have a chance to resist and would be instantly killed. Although Lin Yuan had obtained victory in that battle, he had also discovered his biggest problem. This problem was that his phase grades were seriously out of sync. No matter how talented his phase were, they seemed to be of little value. Therefore, Lin Yuan needed to use the Spirit Chi crystals to quickly raise his phase grades. Each of Lin Yuan's phase could be said to be extremely luxurious to nurture. Even Class 5 Creation Masters could not concoct pure Spirit Chi, so each of Lin Yuan's phase could wantonly drink it. There is also an inexhaustible supply of Heavenly Maiden-grade elemental pearls and excellent high-end resources. Lin Yuan had truly strived to make every step of his phase growth to the best of his phase. With such an influx of resources, as long as the phase grades were raised, they were bound to erupt with unimaginable power. At that moment, two world grace descended from the two large holes on the top of the Karma Gladiolus and Water Lily's heads. Upon seeing the world grace descending, the Karma Gladiolus and Water Lily stood in place. They did not get up to face the sky and absorb the world cleansing that descended after the world grace. They had already been informed by Ji Feng that they needed to provide world grace to Lin Yuan as a reward for helping them through the world cleansing. The Karma Gladiolus and Water Lily did not have the slightest displeasure. Instead, they were very grateful to Lin Yuan and Endless Summer. Chapter 1076. Due to their species and comprehension of laws, the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Sword Orchid had powerful functionality and a certain degree of offensive power. But in terms of defense, it was very weak. Therefore, in order to be safe, Ji Feng had suggested that his two phase must not be harmed by the world cleansing. Without Lin Yuan, Ji Feng would not have been able to successfully reach Myth 3. Moreover, Lin Yuan had also dealt with the strange plant life form that had been residing in Ji Feng's body for 10 years, which had put him in danger. To be honest, the Karma Sword Orchid and the Command Water Lotus might be more grateful for Lin Yuan's help than Ji Feng himself. Even if Lin Yuan took all of the world cleansing, the Karma Sword Orchid and the Command Water Lotus would not feel anything wrong. However, they were still reluctant. After all, the world cleansing was very important to Myth Breed phase that had just improved their quality. After all, the world cleansing was very important to a Myth Breed Fae that had just improved its quality. The impact of losing 10% was not big, but it would take a long time for them to recover. When the world grace reached the heads of the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Sword Orchid, they even took the initiative to avoid the world grace. Under normal circumstances, according to Lin Yuan's character, Ji Feng would have joined Sky City and become one of them, and he would not have asked to absorb the world grace of Ji Feng's contracted phase. However, the spirit chi crystals were too important, and Lin Yuan could not give them up. If Lin Yuan did not need the spirit chi crystals in the beginning, he would not have thought of helping an Emperor-class expert's Fae to survive the world cleansing. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not hesitate to absorb the Karma Sword Orchid and the Command Water Lotus's world grace. The two Myth 3 world grace landed on the Pure Land of Bliss, and the white sand on the Pure Land of Bliss in Lin Yuan's Spirit Lock Spatial Zone was as bright as day. A massive amount of spirit chi crystals kept seeping out of the Pure Land of Bliss in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone one after another. It looked very magnificent. Lin Yuan was not sure how many spirit chi crystals his Spirit Lock Spatial Zone had produced during the process of absorbing the two world grace. However, the number of new spirit chi crystals was at least double that of the previous time. Sensing the increasing number of spirit chi crystals in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, Lin Yuan's face immediately revealed a bright smile. After Morbius advanced to a silver/fantasy breed, the effect of its spirit energy condensation had also improved. In terms of effect, the newly condensed spirit chi crystal could be 10 times more effective than the spirit chi crystal condensed by Morbius when it was at bronze/legend. In other words, the spirit chi crystals produced by Morbius were no longer like before, which could only increase a silver fantasy breed phase grade by 1. Now, every spirit chi crystal produced in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone could raise a gold/fantasy breed by 1 grade. With these spirit chi crystals, in addition to his own use, even the spirit chi crystals consumed by the Mother of Bloodbath's metamorphosis into a favored spirit would be guaranteed to a certain extent. At this thought, Lin Yuan's body stiffened slightly. He recalled that when Gray had transformed into a favored spirit, it had wantonly absorbed spirit chi in the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone, causing the Spirit Lock Spatial Zone to be in a state of spirit chi depletion for about 5 minutes. From this point alone, Lin Yuan felt that his spirit chi crystals might not be enough for the Mother of Bloodbath to transform into a favored spirit. Therefore, Lin Yuan had to continue to work hard to collect spirit chi crystals. It seemed that the exchange information on StarWeb would need to continue to exist for a period of time. As the spirit chi crystals in the spirit lock spatial zone continued to increase, the Pure Land of Bliss absorbed more and more world grace. After absorbing more than 9% of the Karma Gladiolus and the Command Water Lotus's world grace and less than 10%, the Pure Land of Bliss had a huge sense of rejection toward the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Gladiolus's world grace. Lin Yuan knew that the Pure Land of Bliss could no longer absorb more world grace after the Karma Gladiolus and the Command Water Lotus had gone through the Myth 3 world cleansing. Lin Yuan simply returned the remaining world grace to the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Gladiolus. After the Command Water Lotus absorbed 90% of the world grace, its spiritual energy materialization of an ordinary-looking woman with a holy temperament became corporeal. The inconspicuous plant body of the Command Water Lotus also rapidly shrunk and turned into a small hairpin. There was a thick layer of dark green lotus leaves on the hairpin. Upon a closer look, one could faintly see a flower bud emitting a holy and mysterious aura hidden in the lotus leaves. The ordinary-looking woman with a holy temperament took the hairpin and did not wear the body weaponization hairpin on her hair as a decoration. Instead, she lifted up all her hair and hid the hairpin in the middle of her hair. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. What kind of low-profile fae was the suzerain/myth 3 Command Water Lotus? Not only did its body look so inconspicuous, but its body weaponization also looked very ordinary. Finally, the body weaponization hairpin was actually hidden in the middle of her hair. Of course, Lin Yuan, who was used to seeing tricks, thought of another possibility. Perhaps the Command Water Lotus was not only low profile, but was also a sly old fox that was more black-bellied than endless summer. At that moment, the Command Water Lotus had successfully reached Myth 3, but the Karma Gladiolus's evolution had just begun. As the Karma Gladiolus had been severely injured, its progress was slower than the Command Water Lotus when it absorbed 90% of the world grace. However, right after the Command Water Lotus, the Karma Gladiolus spiritual energy materialization of the black-haired, white-eyed man also became corporeal. After the black-haired, white-eyed youth became corporeal, the Karma Gladiolus's main body suddenly swayed. The sword-like leaves rustled and set off a sky full of resolute sword shadows. Finally, it turned into a dark green longsword. This dark green longsword looked rather elegant. The dark green blade had orchid leaf patterns on it, and each of the orchid leaf patterns exuded a sharp aura. The original black and white orchid had turned into a long sword tassel. The sword tassel that the black and white lotus had turned into was constantly swallowing the karma power. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan raised his eyebrows. The Karma Gladiolus's main body, turned into a weapon, was rather good-looking. After the Karma Gladiolus and the Command Water Lotus reached Myth 3, the happiest person was Jifeng. Looking at the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Gladiolus that could turn into human form, Jifeng's smile never stopped. Upon seeing Jifeng going over to show off his affection to the Command Water Lotus and the Karma Gladiolus, Lin Yuan decisively turned his head and chose to ignore them. It was unknown when the strong wind had stopped, but gray in the sky had started to absorb the sunny weather. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan called Gray over. Upon hearing Lin Yuan call it, Gray, which was in the clouds, suddenly plunged into Lin Yuan's arms. Gray's sudden plunge was a little too fierce, and Lin Yuan almost fell on his butt. Chapter 1077. Lin Yuan reached out to touch the fourth white jade ornament on Gray's body and then checked the new ability that Gray had obtained after absorbing the strong wind weather phenomenon. Wind weather's roar. Transform the weather in an area covered by clouds into wind weather. At the same time, creatures within the range will be marked with a wind weather mark. When friendly targets use wind-type abilities in the wind weather, their lethality will be increased. When enemies use wind-type abilities in the wind weather, they will suffer from a series of negative effects such as countercurrent and wind pressure. Lin Yuan raised his brows when he saw that Gray had absorbed the strong wind weather phenomenon. Wind weather's roar was not very useful to Lin Yuan because he did not have a contract with a wind-type fae. However, wind weather's roar's negative effects on enemies, such as countercurrent and wind pressure, could have a certain degree of control over local movements. The more Gray wind weather phenomenon absorbed, the stronger the wind weather phenomenon's roar's control effect would be. Moreover, the control effect of wind weather phenomenon's roar was a large-scale control effect. When the floating island whale rose into the air, Gray turned into clouds and enveloped it, forming a speed bump around the floating island whale. Any creature that approached the floating island whale would immediately be slowed down and entangled by wind pressure and airflow. Thus, wind weather phenomenon's roar was considered a good ability. Then, Lin Yuan asked Gray to use its exclusive skill, Jade Pact. The white jade ornament on Gray's body immediately turned into a horse beast with airflow wrapped around its body. This horse beast made of airflow looked somewhat like Redbud's city lordess Ling Zhao's diamond/fantasy blue jade Pegasus. However, Gray's exclusive skill, Jade Pact, was a white jade-patterned horse beast without wings. After this horse beast appeared, it immediately released several airflows that were like shackles. These airflows that were like shackles could be very good at grabbing and squeezing objects, which meant that they had both attack and control abilities. Lin Yuan used his hand to touch Gray's indistinct but tangible feathers and said with admiration, "Gray is really getting stronger." After receiving Lin Yuan's praise, the cloud in front of Gray suddenly turned into a huge heart shape. The heart-shaped cloud enveloped Lin Yuan as if Gray was giving him a heart. Seeing that Ji Feng, the Karma Sword Orchid, and the Water Lily were done showing off their affection, Lin Yuan stored Gray in the Spirit-Locked Spatial Zone. Seeing that Ji Feng, the Karma Sword Orchid, and the Water Lily were done showing off their affection, Lin Yuan stored Gray in the Spirit-Locked Spatial Zone. At that moment, Endless Summer walked to Lin Yuan's side and said softly, "Lin Yuan, try not to let your favored spirit casually absorb the weather outside." Upon seeing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan frowned slightly. He did not understand what Endless Summer meant. As a heaven and earth spirit creature, Gray needed to absorb natural energy to increase its strength. If it didn't come out to absorb the chi, then Gray's strength would be stuck at this stage. However, Lin Yuan knew that Endless Summer would never speak without thinking or say something like that for a reason. Just as Lin Yuan was about to ask Endless Summer, it explained to him with a serious expression. It's true that all blessed spirits absorb nature's energy to increase their strength, but different blessed spirits' absorption of nature's energy will overlap. Even if they are very far away, the depletion of a unique nature energy will attract the attention of other heavenly chosen. At the same time, some of the more powerful heaven-blessed spirits are able to detect the existence of other heaven-blessed spirits through the unnatural changes in natural energy. Lin Yuan, if you let Gray absorb the chi at will, it is very likely that the other blessed spirits have already noticed it. Be it spirit chi professionals or fays that reach the Emperor class, they will also be able to sense the changes in heaven and earth's natural energy. If Gray happens to be noticed by other Emperor class experts when it absorbs the chi, they will be able to discover Gray's identity as a blessed spirit. Upon hearing Endless Summer's words, Lin Yuan immediately knew that he had been too careless. He did not expect that Gray's absorption of the chi would attract the attention of other blessed spirits and Emperor class experts. It seemed that he could not let Gray freely absorb the chi outside in the future. Otherwise, it might cause a disaster due to Gray's identity as a blessed spirit. At that moment, Ji Feng had already stored the Karma, Gladiolus, and Water Lily back into his spiritual spatial zone. The Karma, Gladiolus, and Water Lily had just reached Myth 3, so they still needed to quietly familiarize themselves with their strength and the body weaponization weapons in the spiritual spatial zone. At that moment, Ji Feng, who no longer had any worries other than revenge, should have been happy. However, Ji Feng was at a loss. For so many years, Ji Feng's goal in life was to survive. He constantly endured the pain that came from the three levels of the mind, soul, and body. Time passed very quickly amidst the constant suffering. In the pain that could come at any time, Ji Feng did not have more time to think about other things. But now that everything was better, Ji Feng realized that he no longer had a home. In order to help Lin Yuan, Ji Feng had even severed all the karma between himself and his family. Although Ji Feng, who had severed the karma, could not remember the appearance of his family due to the disappearance of the karma power, he could still vaguely remember the kinship that had fused into his soul. Just as Ji Feng was feeling sentimental, Lin Yuan walked over and patted on Ji Feng's shoulder. "Do you have any plans later? If not, then come home with us." Upon hearing the first half of Lin Yuan's words, Ji Feng's throat became dry because he did not have any plans. However, when he heard the second half of Lin Yuan's words, he felt that the word home burned his heart. This word dispersed the confusion that had just risen in Ji Feng's heart. Lin Yuan's words gave Ji Feng a warm shelter, a place where he could live again. Ji Feng looked at Lin Yuan with a burning gaze. "Young master, I don't have any plans. I'll just go home with you." After settling everything that needed to be handled, Lin Yuan, Endless Summer, When You, and Ji Feng naturally could not keep staying in the royal capital suburbs. Endless Summer, Ji Feng, and When You once again returned to the treasure artifact made of the treasure cave, golden toad skin, and stomach sack. Lin Yuan used the ethereal jellyfish's ability, Node, to teleport back to the mansion. It was almost dinner time, and Lu Jie had prepared a table full of good dishes. Lin Yuan introduced Ji Feng to everyone in the mansion. Lin Yuan had originally wanted to welcome Ji Feng at night, but Endless Summer had to be in the Spirit Heron Chamber of Commerce just in case. Therefore, Endless Summer could not eat with everyone in the mansion at night. Listen, Zhou Luo had also been busy recruiting the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce's manpower. In order to take over the resources of the veteran faction, the Zheng family in Indigo Azure City would not be flustered due to a lack of manpower. Chapter 1078. Due to various reasons, not everyone in the mansion dined together at night. Thus, Ji Feng could not recognize everyone in the mansion. Ji Feng had already planned to integrate into the mansion, and he would get to know all the people living in the mansion sooner or later. Just as the meal was about to start, Duan he returned to the mansion from the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. As soon as he entered, he smelled the aroma of delicious food. During his time in the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce, Duan he thought about Lu Jie's food every day. Usually Listen, Zhou Luo, or Lu Jie and Hu Quan would bring food for Duan he when they went to the Listening Heron Chamber of Commerce. But every time, Duan he felt that he couldn't eat to his heart's content without eating with the others in the manor. Unknowingly, Duan he began to develop a sense of dependence on the return from Faraway Mansion. In fact, Duan he's main purpose of returning this time was to bid farewell to Lin Yuan and prepare to take Sky City's white-clothed followers to train by using the active period of the Dimensional Rift. At the same time, he could also improve his combat skills with Purple Demon. Duan he came to Lin Yuan's side and said, "Young master, I'm ready. Young master, I'm ready on my side. Tomorrow morning, I plan to take Lu Jie's new white-clothed followers to the extreme north for 3 months of hard training. Do your best to raise the strength of those white-clothed followers." While speaking, Duan he thought of the bronze/epic phase that Lin Yuan had created for those white-clothed followers according to the willpower rune. These bronze/epic phase created according to the willpower rune allowed the king-class experts, who had no talent but only resources, to undergo a transformation. During the 3 months in the extreme north, Duan he was prepared to be strict. He would use the test of life and death to let these king-class experts grow quickly. Otherwise, Duan he felt that these white-clothed followers were really unworthy of Lin Yuan's high-end resources. Upon hearing Duan he's words, Lin Yuan smiled and nodded. "Senior Duan he, thank you for your hard work. I'll have to trouble you with those white-clothed followers." After saying that, Lin Yuan took out a brocade pouch. The brocade pouch contained 13 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls that had just been produced by the elemental shellfish in the spirit-locked spatial zone. These were the resources that Lin Yuan intended to leave for Duan for 3 months for him to use freely. In fact, Lin Yuan had originally planned to let Duan bring Gray along and help it find different auras to absorb during the training. However, after hearing what Endless Summer had said to him, he had given up on this plan. If a spirit of heavenly protector or an emperor-level powerhouse discovered Gray Ash, not only would Duan not be able to protect Gray Ash, but Gray Ash would also die. Instead, he would be in danger because of Gray. Duan took the brocade pouch and looked at the 100 heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls in it in a daze. Senior Duan I should be able to harvest a huge batch of high-grade Fey flesh that can help Senior Purple Demon increase his strength in a few days. I'll get Ostrich Logistics to send those high-grade Fey's flesh over. When Lin Yuan had told Zheng Kaiyuan to visit the Return from Faraway Mansion in a few days at the Spirit Food Pavilion, there had been a deeper meaning. When Zheng Kaiyuan came to the Return from Faraway Manor, the Zheng family had already gone through the Blood Oath Extreme battle and should no longer exist. At that time, Zheng Kaiyuan could only live under the roof of the Miao family like a stray dog. Zheng Kaiyuan, who had lost the backing of the old Zheng family, was like a rootless duckweed. No matter where he went, he would not have the confidence he had before. The more arrogant Zheng Kaiyuan had been in the Miao family, the more people he had offended, the more people would hate him and find trouble behind his back. Therefore, what Zheng Kaiyuan could do was firmly hold on to this line with Lin Yuan and help him get better resources from the Zheng family in order to please him. This was what Lin Yuan wanted. Lin Yuan planned to trade a large number of myth breed Fays for Duan, in addition to the Law Origin crystals, so that the purple demon's strength could rapidly increase. Anyway, with a large number of Law Origin crystals, Lin Yuan would only have more and more Law crystals that contained pure power of Law. He could also afford to feed these Myth 3 Fays in the Return from Faraway Manor. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Duan was overjoyed. The purple demon's strength could finally increase. Moreover, the suzerain/myth breed Fays that Lin Yuan had given him could not possibly all be dark type, right? When the other heads of the purple demon became the main personality, Duan felt that he could be liberated. At the same time, it would be like changing a wife. Thinking of the sickly personality in the purple demon's dark type head, Duan lived in fear every day. Perhaps one night, the person next to him would grab his neck and ask, "You're clearly with me. Why did you sneak into the Spirit Food Pavilion with others to eat the saliva snake when you're clearly with me?" As the young family head of the sea and sky lineage, Jifeng's social skills were naturally maxed out. Soon, Jifeng became familiar with the people he saw in the manor. After eating, when you took Jifeng to clean up a guest room and transformed it into the room that Jifeng usually lived in. Since Hu Quan had been in seclusion recently, when you found 3 spirit craftsmen in the manor to modify the room according to Jifeng's requirements, Jifeng, who had his own room, could be considered to be officially living in the manor. Then, when you also considerately connected the 2 guest rooms next to Jifeng's room from the inside, the 2 rooms were separated from each other, but they were both connected to Jifeng's room. These 2 rooms were prepared by one Yu for the Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily. The Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily had reached Myth 3. After familiarizing themselves with their strength in Jifeng's spiritual spatial zone, they would have to live outside, when you naturally did not know how the 3 of them lived. However, this obviously gave Jifeng enough privacy and space. As for how to build those 2 rooms, when you let the 3 spirit craftsmen stand by first, after the Karma Gladiolus and the Water Lily came out, they would use their ideas to modify the room. After dealing with these matters, Lin Yuan looked at the increasing number of people in the manor. A faint smile appeared on Wen Yu's face. After dinner, Lin Yuan felt that he could not open his eyes. His upper and lower eyelids seemed to be sticky and want to grow together. He had sat in the snow for a day last night and had been busy for another day today. He was still fighting with the strange plant life form in his body under the triple pain of his mind, body, and soul. It could be said that Lin Yuan was really exhausted. Tomorrow morning, he still had to go to the Radiant Moon Palace to meet his master, the Moon Empress, and then have a meal with Zhongzhe, Gulang, Long Tao, and the others. Therefore, even though it was just past 8 o'clock in the evening and there were still many things to do, Lin Yuan still planned to go to sleep. Lin Yuan, whose eyelids were fighting, did not even have the energy to check how many spirit chi crystals there were in the spirit lock spatial zone. Just as he was about to fall asleep, his cell phone suddenly rang. Chapter 1079. This time, Lin Yuan's cell phone did not ring. It was a group video message. He picked up his cell phone in a daze and accepted the group video message. He saw that Zhongzhe, Gulang, Gao Feng, Long Tao, Sun Ningxiang, and Li Xian were all in high spirits. Lu Jie had missed the group video call last time because he had been using the Insect Queen to control the insect carcinoma Fei. However, he was in the mansion this time. He had put on the Spirit Guard's standard mask before the group video call. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan perked up and sat cross-legged on the bed. Lin Yuan, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, shook his head in a daze and forced himself to wake up. Upon seeing Lin Yuan's appearance in the video, Zhongzhe, Gulang, Long Tao, Li Xian, and the others were shocked. Even Lu Jie was very surprised. After living with Lin Yuan for so long, it was his first time seeing him in such a daze and a little lazy. Lin Yuan now looked like a sunshine boy who was a little sleepy, which made people feel close to him at first glance. In the past, Lin Yuan's appearance in front of everyone was too perfect. After seeing him like this, everyone felt that their relationship with him had invisibly become much closer. Lu Jie had seen that Lin Yuan was listless at the dining table. In Lu Jie's memory, Lin Yuan rarely appeared to be so exhausted. Lu Jie immediately thought that something was wrong with Lin Yuan's body. Just as Lu Jie was about to ask about Lin Yuan's condition, he heard a voice at the same time as him. Lu Jie and Zhongzhe asked the same question in unison. Lin Yuan, are you feeling unwell? Lu Jie and Zhongzhe looked at each other for a moment before looking away. Lin Yuan had already suppressed his sleepiness and used his hand to rub his eyes. I'm fine. I just didn't sleep last night and feel a little sleepy after eating. Gulang had been looking at Zhongzhe with a probing gaze since Zhongzhe had asked about Lin Yuan's condition. During the group video chat, Gulang had felt that something was wrong with Zhongzhe. He had been helping Lin Yuan without saying anything. He had even wanted to use his Creation Master resources to reduce Lin Yuan's pressure. This was not at all in line with Zhongzhe's usual character. Zhongzhe, who had always been indifferent to other people's matters, took the initiative to ask about Lin Yuan's situation. This meant that Zhongzhe was worried about Lin Yuan's body. Zhongzhe taking the initiative to care about someone was really too abnormal. Zhongzhe had always disdained to disguise his attitude towards anyone. Even Tian Feng's disciple Zhongzhe wouldn't hesitate to throw his face away when he needed to, not leaving any face behind. However, what puzzled Gulang was that Zhongzhe and Lin Yuan had only met a few times. When did the two of them form such a deep friendship? As soon as Lin Yuan finished talking about his situation, Lu Jie spoke first. If there's something, the 8 of us will have a brief discussion first. We'll talk about it in detail during the day. Lin Yuan, I will heat up a cup of light milk tea cow's milk for you in a while. Drinking it can calm your nerves. Lin Yuan nodded in response. Some time ago, Lu Jie participated in a private auction and bought 2 light milk tea cows. Light milk tea cows usually didn't eat grass, only tea. The milk they produced was incomparably mellow, and, at the same time, it also had a faint tea fragrance and sweetness. After it was boiled, some equinox fruits with a sleeping effect would be added. With the sweet milk with the tea fragrance and the soft texture of the equinox fruits, one would definitely have a good night's sleep. Lu Jie and Lin Yuan's conversation immediately let everyone capture a piece of information. Lin Yuan and Lu Jie lived together. It could be said that among the 8 people who were currently on the phone, Lu Jie was the most mysterious to Gao Feng, Gulang, Zhongzhe, Sun Ningxiang, Long Tao, Li Xian, and the others. Lu Jie had been wearing the Spirit Guard standard mask, so no one knew what he looked like behind the mask. Looking at the spirit guard's standard mask on Lu Jie's face, Lin Yuan felt like laughing. In fact, it was reasonable to say that after participating in the Nyx assembly, Lu Jie could completely expose his identity, but he didn't. It was unknown if Lu Jie was addicted to wearing the mask. Lu Jie also asked his master, Night Leaning Moon, to create a mask made of 1,000 pieces of machinery for him. This mask made of 1,000 pieces of machinery looked no different from the Spirit Guard standard mask. However, it could freely change and combine with the movements of Lu Jie's face. Lu Jie could even wear this mask to eat and drink. When Lu Jie had returned to the mansion with this mask, Hu Quan had been shocked at first glance. Finally, after studying Lu Jie's mask for a day, Hu Quan was somewhat disheartened to find that he could not imitate the mask's machinery at all. This made Hu Quan feel frustrated for the first time since becoming a Class 5 spirit craftsman. This also made Hu Qianmong full of energy, wanting to improve his spirit craftsman strength again. It was unknown if it was because of this blow, but Hu Quan had already entered seclusion with Lin Yuan's heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls. Lin Yuan was looking forward to what Hu Quan could weave those heavenly maiden grade elemental pearls into after he came out of seclusion. Gao Feng looked at the listless Lin Yuan and instructed, Brother, don't stay up late if you have nothing to do. Brother, don't stay up late if you have nothing to do. It's not good for your health. I'll bring you some deep-sea fish brains for tomorrow's dinner. These deep-sea fish brains are extracted from the brains of deep-sea platinum and above fish phase. It has an immediate effect on fatigue recovery. Upon hearing Gao Feng's instructions, Lin Yuan could not help but roll his eyes. When Lin Yuan had spoken to Gao Feng on the phone previously, he had heard from Gao Feng that he would secretly pretend to be asleep whenever his family urged him to sleep. In the latter half of the night, he would secretly use the Star Web card to log into the Star Web. How could a person with such a routine tell him to sleep early? Speaking of which, they would go to Zhong Zhe's place for a meal at noon tomorrow. Tonight, they should be talking about the meal as well. The people in this small group had jointly established a force to develop the Abyss world. It could be said that they were all on the same side. Longtown knew his identity as Black. Therefore, he did not need to be apprehensive when speaking. Lin Yuan asked Gao Feng, Gao Feng, you said you were looking for a guild club that could participate in the S tournament. Have you found it yet? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, Gao pouted and said with some anger, Before I became Teacher Cicada's disciple, I applied to a few Buran clubs, but they all rejected me. I heard that White Devil left the Extreme Guild Club, so I wanted to give it a try. However, even a second-rate guild club like the Extreme Guild Club is picky about me. Chapter 1081. As Miao Ji spoke, the more she looked at Zheng Kaiyuan's broken teeth, the more her heart ached. At the same time, the anger in her heart began to surge. The anger finally piled up and turned into a thick killing intent. This killing intent was targeted at Sky City's City Lord, the youth who knocked out Zheng Kaiyuan's teeth. In Miao Ji's opinion, her son, Zheng Kaiyuan, was a dragon among men. When he was 11 or 12 years old, he had displayed powerful creation master talent. Without even needing her to say anything, Zheng Kaiyuan's creation master talent had caught her elder sister's eye and been accepted as a disciple. At the end of the day, Zheng Kaiyuan had not had any opportunities because the Zheng family was just a veteran faction. Furthermore, it was not a top faction. Not long ago, her son had the opportunity to participate in a top event like the Nyx Assembly and immediately seized the opportunity. Miao Zhua and Miao Qi had gotten into trouble and been kicked out of the Nyx Assembly. Instead, her son, Zheng Kaiyuan, had stayed in the Nyx Assembly and brought back the news that the Radiance Federation's Class 6 Abyss Rift was about to open. Her son, Zheng Kaiyuan, had even become friends with the Moon Empress disciple at the Nyx Assembly. He had even gotten the Moon Empress disciple's contact information. One had to know that a mobile phone number was an extremely private thing for people with status. People with status would not leave their contact information for ordinary acquaintances. After Miao Ji married into the Zheng family, her father, Zheng Ji, did not allow her to return to the Miao family even during the new year. When she called for New Year's greetings, Zheng Ji would not pick up the phone. This made Miao Ji feel a trace of hostility toward the Miao family. For so many years, Miao Ji had been longing to return to the Miao family, but there was no way. Now that Miao Ji had returned to the Miao family, she was personally welcomed by her father, Miao Jinshan. As his daughter, Miao Ji knew how snobbish and indifferent Miao Jinshan was. Therefore, Miao Ji's mentality changed when her father personally welcomed her back to the Miao family. She felt that the Miao family now had to rely on her son, Zheng Kaiyuan. Before Miao Ji got married, she was rather polite to some of the old servants of the Miao family. Now that she had returned to the Miao family, she put on the airs of a master. Miao Ji's words made Zheng Kaiyuan's eyes light up. If he could really make Elder Han, who had always been by his grandfather's side, represent the Zheng family to fight the Sky City. Given Old Han's fourth tribulation creation strength at Monarch Class 5, there was nothing for him to worry about. With Old Han's strength, he could even easily annihilate some of the lower-ranked peak forces, not to mention a sky castle that had just been established not long ago. However, Miao Ji's words caused the old man, who was pacing in a room, to stiffen. Then, the old man's expression suddenly darkened, revealing an extremely displeased expression. Zheng Kaiyuan, who had turned to look at Miao Ji and her joyful expression, couldn't help but have a complicated look in his eyes. Zheng Ji was a peak-level Emperor Stage powerhouse, as well as the Zheng family's old patriarch. His heart and soul were devoted to the Zheng family's development. Zheng Ji had spent a lot of effort fighting with the other two veteran forces in Indigo Azure City all year round. Zheng Ji was developing the Zheng family with great effort, mainly for the continuation of the Zheng family's foundation. At the same time, it was also for his own reputation. Zheng Ji had always taken a steady path to develop the Zheng family. He was afraid that some problems would cause the other two veteran forces in Indigo Azure City to launch a counterattack against the Zheng family. Zheng Ji had agreed to Zheng Kaiyuan's suggestion to have a blood oath duel with Sky Castle this time because he had already regarded Zheng Kaiyuan as the next family patriarch after so many years. Zheng Ji was now in his 70s and 80s, but he was still the Zheng family patriarch. It was because his son was useless. However, his son was good at seducing women. He had even seduced Miao Ji from the top faction Beast Creation Garden. At first, Zheng Ji had been quite optimistic about his daughter-in-law, Miao Ji. Later, Zheng Ji realized that after Miao Ji married over, she didn't bring much of the Miao family's resources to the Zheng family. Even the Miao family didn't recognize Miao Ji as a member of the Miao family. Later, when Zheng Kaiyuan was born, Miao Qi accepted Zheng Kaiyuan as a disciple. Through Miao Qi's connections, the Miao family began to take out some resources to support the Zheng family. If the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden was willing to support Li Yun Niao, like how Coiled Dragon Valley had done back then, the Zheng family would have been in a different situation in Indigo Azure City. Indigo Azure City was ranked at the bottom of the 36 major cities and didn't have a top faction. If the Zheng family could borrow the Miao family's power to annex the other two families and integrate Indigo Azure City's resources. After a few years of development, the Zheng family could become a new nobleman among the top factions. At the thought of this, Zheng Ji sighed. His three grandsons were all geniuses. His eldest grandson, Zheng Kading, was now a Radiance 100 sequence member and didn't put his mind on the development of the family's faction. In fact, Zheng Ji's earliest choice for the Zheng family patriarch was his youngest grandson, Zheng Kaiyan. Zheng Kaiyan was born with 6 fingers. He had been smart since young and had a lot of ideas. At a young age, he had shown his passion and talent for faction development. However, because of that accident that could not be investigated, Zheng Kaiyan had been in a wheelchair forever. He had also started to become eccentric and moody. For the sake of his reputation, Zheng Ji couldn't let a person in a wheelchair who couldn't stand up become the Zheng family patriarch. In the end, Zheng Ji's gaze was still on Zheng Kaiyuan. However, Zheng Kaiyuan was more passionate about the Miao family than the Zheng family. Ever since the Nyx assembly ended, he hadn't returned to the Zheng family. Zhang Ji agreed to carry out the Blood Oath Extreme duel with Sky City because of the Miao family's two ultimate Emperor Realm experts who had two pinnacle Myth 3 phase. It was because of these two ultimate Emperor Realm experts who had two pinnacle Myth 3 phase that Zhang Ji chose to take the risk. Zhang Ji always felt that it wasn't safe to target Sky City because of the creation master resources that Sky City possessed. However, Zhang Kaiyuan's attitude towards the Blood Oath Extreme duel with Sky City was abnormally firm. In the end, Zhang Kaiyuan had to use his relationship with the Moon Empress disciple to finally convince Zhang Ji. It was definitely a good thing for the Zhang family patriarch, Miao Jinshan, to let Elder Han help the Zhang family in the Blood Oath Extreme duel. However, Miao Ji said to let Elder Han replace a member of the Zhang family. What was the Zhang family? Wasn't the Zhang family a family? Furthermore, he was the only member of the Zhang family who would participate in the Blood Oath Extreme duel. If he was replaced, the Zhang family would send 3 members of the Miao family to participate in the Blood Oath Extreme duel. The other factions could spectate the Blood Oath Extreme duel at the Extreme duel. If the Zhang family only sent one of their own, it would be inevitable for people to talk behind their backs. If the Zhang family didn't send a single member, others would probably think that the Miao family had swallowed the Zhang family. Where would the Zhang family and himself put their reputation? End of this chapter. Chapter 1082. The Blood Oath battle consisted of 3 matches. The winner of the previous match could choose not to leave the arena and continue fighting. With Old Han around, Miao Ji could suggest to replace the other 2 peak emperors of the Miao family with someone from the Zhang family. From Miao Ji's words, Zhang Ji knew that Miao Ji didn't think of him or the Zhang family. Even though Miao Ji was the daughter-in-law of the Zhang family, her surname was still Miao. But when he saw Zhang Kaiyuan, who was being groomed as the head of the Zhang family, he was delighted and didn't think of the Zhang family at all. Zhang Ji seemed to have aged a few decades in an instant. Even his aura and sharpness had disappeared. Zhang Ji sighed. Forget it. How long can these old bones of mine manage the Zhang family? In the end, the younger generation of the Zhang family is the future of the Zhang family. But could the younger generation of the Zhang family really give the Zhang family a future? Zhang Ji suddenly thought of Zhang Kaiyan. If it was Zhang Kaiyan, he definitely wouldn't stand on the Zhang family's side and consider the Zhang family's problems. Zhang Kaiyuan turned to look at his grandfather, Zhang Ji, who was pleasantly surprised. Zhang Kaiyuan, who had turned around, was stunned. He felt that his grandfather, Zhang Ji, gave him a different feeling, especially the way he looked at him. But Zhang Kaiyuan didn't think too much about it. Grandfather, why don't you come with us to find Grandfather and see if he can get Old Han to help the Zhang family with the Blood Oath battle? Zhang Ji's cold heart died when he heard Zhang Kaiyuan's words. He had watched his grandson grow up. Did he expect him, the grandfather, to lower his voice and beg his grandfather? Zhang Ji tilted his head and looked at Zhang Kaiyuan. He seemed to be trying to figure out how Zhang Kaiyuan had thought of this and said it. At this moment, Zhang Ji felt that the future of the Zhang family was a joke. Forget it, I won't go. If you want to go, you can go. However, this old man must represent the Zhang family in the Zhang family's Blood Oath Extreme battle. With that, Zhang Ji turned and left the room. Zhang Ji's words made Miao Ji frown. She looked very unhappy. However, Zhang Kaiyuan immediately understood what was going on with his grandfather. Usually, Zhang Kaiyuan would have gone to explain the situation to his grandfather. But this time, Zhang Kaiyuan did not do so. In the past few days, he had been treated as a distinguished guest in the Miao family. Even the Miao family's previous eldest young master, Miao Zhuo, and the current eldest young master, Miao He, had to be polite to him because of his identity as the Moon Empress disciple and friend. Zhang Kaiyuan, who had been in such an environment for a long time, couldn't help but look down on the Zhang clan, a veteran force that he was born in. He had also lost some of the respect he had for his grandfather, the head of the family. When Miao Ji and Zhang Kaiyuan arrived at the Zhang family's main residence to meet Miao Jinshan was guiding Miao He on his creation master homework. After Miao Zhuo was crippled, Miao Jinshan single-handedly trained Miao He. He wanted to train Miao He so that Miao He's abilities were worthy of his status as the Miao family's young master. He had just hosted a welcoming banquet for the Zheng family, and now Miao Ji and Zheng Kaiyuan were asking to see him. This caused Miao Jinshan to frown. During this period of time, if there was anyone in the Miao family who disliked Zheng Kaiyuan the most, it would definitely not be Miao Zhua, who had been ridiculed by Zheng Kaiyuan. Nor was it Miao He, who had been tricked by Zheng Kaiyuan. It was the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden's current family head, Miao Jinshan. Miao Zhua didn't even need to say anything when Zheng Kaiyuan ridiculed Miao Zhua. The rest of the Miao family would report this matter to Miao Jinshan. The conflict that had happened in the Spirit Food Pavilion that day was of great importance. Zheng Kaiyuan didn't say anything, but Miao He didn't dare to hide it. Miao He took the risk of being punished and told Miao Jinshan everything. He had also specifically mentioned how Zheng Kaiyuan had hit him while he was down in front of Lin Yuan and had nearly burned him. Zheng Kaiyuan's behavior toward Miao He could be said to have violated Miao Jinshan's taboo. Miao Jinshan almost couldn't tolerate Zheng Kaiyuan anymore. However, according to Miao He, Lin Yuan had indeed invited Zheng Kaiyuan to his home as a guest. This meant that the relationship between Zheng Kaiyuan and Lin Yuan was really like what Zheng Kaiyuan had said. It might even be better than what Zheng Kaiyuan had said. Therefore, Miao Jinshan suppressed his dislike for Zheng Kaiyuan and specially brought Miao He to the conference hall to receive Zheng Kaiyuan and Miao Ji, who had come to visit late at night. Miao He, who was following behind Miao Jinshan, revealed a sarcastic smile when he saw that his grandfather was heading to the guest hall instead of the study room. Zheng Kaiyuan was so arrogant, but in his grandfather's heart, he was just a guest. It was the same for his aunt, Miao Ji. A married daughter was like spilled water. If this water was splashed into the Imperial Garden, it would be stained with some of the Imperial Garden's value. However, if this water was splashed on the weeds, who would be willing to scoop up this dirty water? After Miao Jinshan received Miao Ji and Zheng Kaiyuan in the living room, Zheng Kaiyuan and Miao Ji left the living room excitedly. After seeing Miao Ji and Zheng Kaiyuan leave, Miao He couldn't help but ask, "Grandfather, are you really going to let Grandfather Han help the Zheng family in the Blood Oath Extreme Duel? How can a veteran faction like the Zheng family be worthy of Grandfather Han's help? Moreover, the Miao family is so great at this time, and the Zheng family is sending out such high-end combat power. It is really too conspicuous." After saying that, Miao He didn't continue. Miao He knew that if he continued, he would have to mention his aunt, Miao Qi, and big brother, Miao Zhua. No matter how he looked at it, he would have the suspicion of trampling on his own family. Miao He's words made Miao Jinshan's expression darken. How could Miao Jinshan not know this? After the next assembly, many top factions that had worked with the Miao family before had a drastic change in attitude towards the Miao family. Many of their collaborations were forced to stop, causing the Miao family to suffer significant losses. At this moment, it would not be a wise choice for the Miao family to do anything. However, Miao Jinshan still had to rely on Zheng Kaiyuan to maintain his relationship with the Moon Empress disciple. The Coiling Dragon Valley had obtained so many Golden Lotus brocade stalks, and the most uncomfortable was the Beast Creation Garden, which had a hostile relationship with the Coiling Dragon Valley. The Beast Creation Garden was originally at a disadvantage compared to the Coiling Dragon Valley. If they still couldn't obtain the Golden Lotus brocade stalks, the Beast Creation Garden will be left behind by the Coiling Dragon Valley. In Miao Jinshan's opinion, if he followed Zheng Kaiyuan's wishes, Zheng Kaiyuan would also try his best to help the Miao family close the distance with Lin Yuan. Recently, the Miao family had sent a few apology letters to the Spirit Guard's young palatial lord, wanting to apologize for Miao Zhua's incident in Yiyang Palace. However, these apology letters that were sent to the Spirit Guards were like leaves falling into the water. They didn't even cause a ripple. As long as the Spirit Guard's young palatial lord didn't reply, Miao Jinshan's heart wouldn't be at ease. End of this chapter. Chapter 1083. Furthermore, if the major factions wanted to enter the Abyss world through the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift, they would need the approval of the Spirit Guards. If they offended the chief guard's disciple and didn't receive her forgiveness, how was the Miao family going to enter the Abyss world? The Miao family's Elder Association had already discussed the development of the Abyss world many times and had even prepared the development personnel. If the Miao family couldn't enter the Abyss world, their previous preparations would be in vain. Even the Miao family would become the laughingstock of the veteran factions and pinnacle factions. Even those rising powers would poke at the Miao family's back and talk about them. Even if the Miao family still had the strength, their reputation and influence would fall from the sky and be trampled on by others. By then, no faction would be willing to cooperate with the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden. That way, the Miao family's Beast Creation Garden would truly penetrate the Earth's core. At the thought of this, Miao Zhinshan's expression became even more worried. In another half a month, the major factions would be able to enter the Abyss world with the approval of the Spirit Guards. The next morning, Lin Yuan woke up and stretched his body, feeling extremely comfortable. A night of peaceful sleep had washed away his fatigue. Lin Yuan felt that if he went to sleep when he was extremely sleepy, he would sleep exceptionally soundly for the entire night. Just as Lin Yuan was about to get up, he realized that Genius and Chimey were already up. However, Genius and Chimey were nestled in his embrace and didn't move. It was obvious that they were afraid of disturbing his sleep. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan had woken up, Genius and Chimey immediately pounced into Lin Yuan's embrace and played with him. Then, Genius said in a childish voice, "Lin Yuan, Genius wants to go to the Spirit-locked spatial zone to teach those 100 questions beasts. In another week or so, those 100 questions beasts will all be able to reach Diamond X/Legend. Chimey immediately said, "Lin Yuan, Chimey also wants to go to the Spirit-locked spatial zone to sing. If you do the live streaming for a while longer, you will be able to obtain plenty of rewards for the Warm Sun Fund." Upon hearing Genius and Chimey's words, Lin Yuan couldn't help but sigh. The two little fellows that were originally sticking to him had grown up and had clear goals and things to do. Lin Yuan hugged Genius and Chimey before sending them back to the Spirit-locked spatial zone. According to what Genius had said, his 100 questions beast army would take shape in another month. 50 Diamond X/Legend 100 questions beasts were equivalent to 50 Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Masters. Furthermore, the 100 questions beast that Genius had taught had much more knowledge than those Pinnacle Class 3 Creation Masters. It was even more solid. After looking at the time, Lin Yuan realized that it was already 8:30 am under normal circumstances. The manor would have breakfast at around 7:30 a.m., and Wen Yu and Lu Jie would wake everyone up before 7:30 am. Wen Yu and Lu Jie didn't wake him up today, presumably because Lu Jie saw that he was too tired last night. He wanted to have a good rest today. When he went downstairs, he saw Wen Yu quickly flipping through stacks of paper documents on the table. Lu Jie, on the other hand, was filling a basket with crab dumplings. There was a small plate on the table with 3 pork dumplings and 3 crab roe dumplings on it. It was prepared according to Lin Yuan's usual appetite. Upon seeing Lin Yuan come down, Wen Yu spoke with a smile. "Young master, I've reorganized the information on the Dark Federation and confirmed that there are no mistakes. As for what happened to the Whale Ocean Trading Company, I have not asked Ji Feng in detail. Thus, I have not sorted out the detailed information." Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan nodded. He felt that there was no need to inform the Moon Empress about the Whale Ocean trade. Even if Lin Yuan accepted Ji Feng and learned from him that there had been a huge change in the Whale Ocean trading, he would not be able to do anything about it. However, this was just a family affair of the Whale Ocean trade. However, he had to drag out everything about the Tower Cannon and the Dark Continent to his master, the Moon Empress, regardless of how big or small it was. As Su Yiren was a dark emissary chosen by the 7 states, she knew the core secrets of the Dark Federation. Although the Dark Federation no longer existed, the information that Su Yiren had was very useful to the entire Radiance Federation. A part of it was even related to the 100-year plan of the Pagoda Cannon, the revival of the Slumbering One. Lu Jie put the food basket on the table and said after he finished the 3 porcine, Colonel Shumai, and 3 crab roe dumplings on the plate, "Lin Yuan, Do I have to wait for you at the foot of the Leaning Moon Mountain before going to Zhongzhe? Lin Yuan shook his head in response. Big brother Lu, you go to Zhongzhe first. I'll go there directly at noon. After the question and answer session with teacher, I might be a little late. After saying that, Lin Yuan handed an ethereal jellyfish tentacle to Lu Jie. Upon seeing that, Lu Jie took the tentacle and said, Then I'll put this tentacle at the entrance of Copper Crane Alley. Then I will place this tentacle at the entrance of Copper Crane Alley. It will be more convenient for you when you come here. After chatting with Lu Jie and Wen Yu for a while, Lin Yuan put the information about the Dark Federation and the Tower Cannon, as well as the food basket containing the Crab Road dumplings, into the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Then, Lin Yuan used the ethereal jellyfish's ability node to teleport to the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance. Upon seeing Lin Yuan, Yin Cha and Kai Cha, who were guarding the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance, hurriedly bowed. After bowing as a greeting, Yin Cha said, Good morning, young lord. Good morning, young lord. The Moon Empress is currently receiving guests in the front hall. After Yin Cha finished speaking, Kai Cha added, The Bamboo Monarch's eldest disciple, Xia Chun, has brought the Bamboo Monarch's youngest disciple, Gu Lang, to pay a visit to the Moon Empress. It seems like they are here to thank the Moon Empress. After finishing her sentence, Kai Cha muttered something. The Moon Empress just returned from the Purple Bamboo Garden, and the people from the Purple Bamboo Garden came looking for her. I really don't know how much favor the Bamboo Monarch owes the Moon Empress. Just as Kai Cha finished speaking, she was hit on the back of her head by Yin Cha. Yin Cha gave Kai Cha a rebuking look. Kai Cha was truly impudent. She was already in her 40s, yet she was still so immature. How could a tea attendant casually fabricate the Bamboo Monarch's gratitude towards the Moon Empress? After being hit by Yin Cha, Kai Cha rubbed the back of her head in pain and stuck out her tongue. It's because your Highness doesn't know the situation. Let me explain it to your Highness. If it was someone else, how could I possibly say such a thing? Upon hearing Kai Cha's words, Lin Yuan raised his brows. He recalled the brocade box of astrological wisdom epiphyllum pollen that he had given to the Moon Empress. This brocade box of astrological wisdom epiphyllum pollen wasn't as simple as a favor to the Bamboo Monarch. A brocade box of astrological wisdom epiphyllum pollen was enough to save the Bamboo Monarch's love. It had also turned the situation of certain death into a harmonious coexistence between the two of them. Into this chapter. Chapter 1084. When he arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's front hall, he saw his master, the Moon Empress, sitting on the moonlight throne. Xia Chun bent over and held a white jade box that was about 1.5 meters long in his hand. He held it in front of him. It was as though he was presenting a gift to his master, the Moon Empress. Gu Lang held a slightly smaller brocade box in his hand and did the same thing as Xia Chun. Unlike the white jade box in Xia Chen's hand, the brocade box in Gu Lang's hand had a jewel pavilion embroidered with golden patterns. The items in the box were also emitting a bright green luster. This shade of green seemed to be the purest shade of green in the world. The green was majestic, like that of an emperor. At first glance, one would feel that all the greenery in the world couldn't compare to this pure green. The brocade box was embroidered with the symbol of the elegant treasure pavilion. It was likely that Wang Fuxiang had taken the brocade box to thank the Moon Empress. When Lin Yuan arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's entrance, the Moon Empress sensed his arrival. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan had arrived at the main hall, the Moon Empress waved her hand and spoke. Little Yuan, come sit in front of Master. As the Moon Empress spoke, Mystic Moon, who was standing behind her, brought over a chair that was slightly smaller than the Moon Empress Moonlight Throne. This chair was 80% to 90% similar to the Moon Empress Moonlight Throne, and the materials used were almost the same as the Moonlight Throne. Upon hearing his master, the Moon Empress, calling out to him, Lin Yuan went to greet her. After that, he nodded at Xin Yu as a form of greeting. Lin Yuan sat on the seat beside the Moon Empress Moonlight Throne, causing Mystic Moon's brows to jump. Xin Yu didn't know what had happened to the Moon Empress. Not only did she replicate the Moon Empress's royal robe for the young lord and the others, but she also didn't wear it. Now, he had made a copy of the Moonlight Throne for the young highness. Xianyu felt that the Moon Empress' love for the young highness could no longer be described as simple pampering. She simply treated the young highness as her own eyeball and cherished him. Upon seeing Gulang, Lin Yuan raised his brows. He and Gulang had exchanged contact information at the Nyx assembly previously. After listening to Long Tao's thoughts, Lin Yuan took the initiative to create a group chat and establish a faction with Gulang. After 2 chats in the group, everyone became closer to each other. Although Lin Yuan hadn't interacted with Gulang for a long time and hadn't interacted with him many times, Gulang wasn't an ordinary person. However, with common interests, Lin Yuan and Gulang could be considered friends. Everyone had just had a group video chat last night, but Gulang didn't mention that he was going to the Radiant Moon Palace this morning. Gulang, who was holding the brocade box, wasn't surprised to see Lin Yuan. Lin Yuan was the young lord of the Radiant Moon Palace, so it was normal for him to come to the Radiant Moon Palace. Gulang had come to the Radiant Moon Palace this morning because his eldest senior brother, Xia Chun, had informed him at the last moment. If Gulang had known last night that he would be coming to the Radiant Moon Palace today, Gulang felt that he might as well have informed Lin Yuan in advance. If Lin Yuan could introduce her, it wouldn't be so troublesome to meet the Moon Empress. The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan, who was sitting beside her, and revealed a faint smile. Then, the Moon Empress looked at the jade box in Xia Chen's hands and spoke with some surprise. This Empress remembers that after the Bamboo Monarch's golden silk emperor bamboo broke through that realm, it only produced 2 seedlings. I heard from the Bamboo Monarch that one of these 2 seedlings was given to one of his disciples many years ago. It seems that the brocade box contains the Bamboo Monarch's remaining golden silk emperor bamboo that hasn't been contracted yet. Forming a contract with the golden silk emperor bamboo has an extremely high requirement for one soul. The sacred source life form must be at the late stage of Class 4 to ensure that the golden silk emperor bamboo's bamboo force won't impact the soul when forming a contract with it. The Bamboo Monarch didn't leave something like the golden silk emperor bamboo for his descendants, but he was actually willing to bring it to this Empress's Radiant Night Palace. When Lin Yuan heard the Moon Empress mention the golden silk emperor bamboo, he couldn't help but look at the jade box. There was a purplish gold bamboo shoot that was nearly 1 meter long in the jade box. The purplish gold bamboo shoot was like a rich jade, and the golden threads on it were like rays of light that were scattered in the sunset. It was abnormally beautiful. Lin Yuan knew about the golden silk emperor bamboo. Lin Yuan wasn't the only one who knew about it. Even the rising factions would know about the Bamboo Monarch's signature Fei, which was one of the 3 Class 5 creation masters. The golden silk emperor bamboo wasn't a combat class Fei, but a Fei with special abilities. The golden silk emperor bamboo's abilities were all to support the creation master's abilities. It could be said that the Bamboo Monarch's current achievements couldn't be separated from the golden silk emperor bamboo's help. His master, the Moon Empress, said that the Bamboo Monarch had given his disciple a golden silk emperor bamboo 10 years ago. The golden silk emperor bamboo had a requirement for one soul. 10 years ago, Gulang hadn't even reached the age to form a contract with a sacred source life form, let alone raise it to the late stage of Class 4. The Bamboo Monarch only had 2 disciples, so the disciple who had formed the contract with the golden silk emperor bamboo should have been Xia Chun, who was holding the jade box. If not for the brocade box of astrological epiphyllum pollen, the Bamboo Monarch would have left this uncontracted golden silk emperor bamboo for Gulang. In fact, Lin Yuan had guessed correctly. When Gulang heard the Moon Empress words, he raised his head and looked at the golden silk emperor bamboo in the jade box. His eyes revealed a reluctant expression. Gulang had been working hard to raise his sacred source life form star class. When Zhongzai's sacred source life form was at the late stage of Class 3, Gulang's sacred source life form was already a Class 4. This was closely related to Gulang's desire to obtain the golden silk emperor bamboo from the bamboo monarch. It was because of this golden silk emperor bamboo that Gulang had been constantly encouraging Gulang. However, when the bamboo monarch had chosen to give this uncontracted golden silk emperor bamboo to the moon empress as a thank you gift, Gulang didn't have any objections. Even if this golden silk emperor bamboo should have belonged to him, Gulang understood how much the radiant moon palace owed the purple bamboo garden. As the bamboo monarch's youngest disciple, Gulang understood his master's intentions. Without the box of astrological epiphyllum pollen, his master would have to choose between him and his wife. His master would definitely choose to abandon him without hesitation to protect his wife. It could be said that the moon empress arrival with the pollen was equivalent to saving his master's life. Even if Gulang had to pay with his life, let alone an uncontracted golden silk emperor bamboo, Gulang would be willing. No matter how much Gulang understood the radiant moon palace's kindness to the purple bamboo garden, humans had emotions and desires. Even if he couldn't bear to part with it, he would still be reluctant. Losing the golden silk emperor bamboo had a huge impact on Gulang. Without the golden silk emperor bamboo, Gulang wouldn't be able to inherit the bamboo monarch's creation master technique that used the golden silk emperor bamboo as the main support method. This made Gulang's status as the bamboo monarch's disciple seem somewhat nominal. If Gulang wanted to grow in the future, he could only try to open up a path that belonged to him. End of this chapter. Chapter 1085. However, opening up one's own path was easier said than done. Every Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Master would want to open up a path that belonged to them. However, after so many years, none of these Pinnacle Class 4 Creation Masters who wanted to open up their own path had succeeded. At that moment, the Moon Empress looked at the brocade box in Gulang's hand. Upon seeing the item in the brocade box, the Moon Empress looked tempted. There really are some treasures hidden in the elegant jade pavilion. There's actually Emperor's Rhyme Spirit Jade, and it's the best of the glass type. Compared to the golden silk emperor bamboo, the pure spiritual energy in this glass type Emperor's Charm Spirit Jadeite is more useful to me. The Moon Empress said to Mystic Moon, who was beside her, Xianyu, go and accept these 2 items for this Empress. Upon hearing that, Mystic Moon stepped forward and took the jade box from Xia Chen's hands as well as the brocade box from Gulang's hands before returning to the Moon Empress side. The Moon Empress scrutinized the glass-type Imperial Aura Spirit Jade that was the size of a human head. Then, he reached out to pick up the uncontracted golden silk Emperor Bamboo from the jade box and placed it in Lin Yuan's hand. Little Yuan, take this golden silk Emperor Bamboo. The bamboo leaves of the golden thread Emperor Bamboo can purify the concentration of spirit energy. The bamboo pole can assist in the concoction of spirit liquid, shortening the formation speed of the spirit liquid, and stirring the spirit liquid with the bamboo branch can increase the fusion rate of the spirit materials in the spirit liquid. If you carry out the contract, it will be of great help to the Creation Master's ability. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan looked up at Gulang and immediately saw Gulang's reluctant expression. Lin Yuan reached out and took the golden silk Emperor Bamboo from the Moon Empress. However, Lin Yuan had no intention of contracting the golden silk Emperor Bamboo. The golden silk Emperor Bamboo might be a treasure to other creation masters, but it was nothing to Lin Yuan. This was because Lin Yuan was not using conventional creation master methods to enhance phase. However, since it was bestowed by his master, the Moon Empress, he did not reject it. After experiencing some things, Lin Yuan no longer thought of things so simply, and he was no longer so stubborn. He would no longer be as stubborn as he was in the past, thinking of relying on himself for everything. Even if his master, the Moon Empress, gave him something, he would not accept it. Lin Yuan still had to rely on himself, but he would no longer reject the things that his master, the Moon Empress, had given him. At the same time, he recalled what his master, the Moon Empress, had said when she had seen the glass-type Emperor Aura Spirit Jade. This meant that his master, the Moon Empress, had a need for pure spirit chi. Furthermore, pure spirit qi was very important to his master, the Moon Empress. Otherwise, given Lin Yuan's understanding of the Moon Empress, if it was not important, she would definitely not reveal an abnormal expression when she saw the glass-type Emperor Aura Spirit Jade. Speaking of pure spirit qi, Lin Yuan had plenty of it. However, now that Gu Lang and Xiachen were here, it clearly wasn't a good time to mention pure spirit qi to the Moon Empress. Although Lin Yuan treated Gu Lang as a good friend, he was still able to differentiate between close and distant. There were some things that Lin Yuan could tell the Moon Empress because she was his master and was like family to him. However, there were some things that he would never tell his friends, no matter how close they were. Lin Yuan's arrival made the Moon Empress no longer in the mood to talk to Xia Chun and Gu Lang in the front hall. I already understand Bamboo Monarch's intentions. Go back and tell Bamboo Monarch not to take any more treasures from the Radiant Moon Palace. I don't lack treasures. If I need to trouble Bamboo Monarch with anything in the future, I will naturally ask. Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Gu Lang and Xia Chun hurriedly responded. Xia Chun replied, Moon Empress, I will leave the Leaning Moon Mountain with Junior Brother to report to Master. Before Gu Lang left, he looked at Lin Yuan and waved his hand as a farewell. Then, he left the Radiant Moon Palace with Xia Chun. After leaving the Radiant Moon Palace, Xia Chun looked at Gu Lang with a gentle gaze. Junior Brother, do you remember the exclusive skill that my Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo obtained when it became a myth breed? My Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo is now at the peak of Myth 3 and will soon become a creation breed. After becoming a creation breed, according to the exclusive skill that my Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo obtained, I can use the Calamity of Creation to rebirth the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo. Through the attack of the Calamity of Creation, I can completely erase the traces of me on the reborn Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo. Master gave away the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo that originally belonged to you, so I will give you my Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo. Gu Lang hurriedly shook his head and grabbed Xia Chen's sleeve. Eldest Senior Brother, you mustn't. Even if you give me your Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo, I don't want it. If you really do that, I won't be a creation master in the future. As Gu Lang's eldest senior brother, Xia Chun treated Gu Lang meticulously. The Bamboo Monarch had been busy finding a partner for so many years, and Gu Lang had been brought up by Xia Chun for more than half of his life. Gu Lang knew very well how good his eldest senior brother was to him. However, Gu Lang accepted his eldest senior brother's kindness, but it didn't mean that his eldest senior brother could harm him to help him. Upon hearing Gu Lang's words, Xia Chun sighed softly. His youngest junior brother's creation master talent was stronger than his, but because he didn't have the Golden Silk Emperor Bamboo, his youngest junior brother could no longer take master's path. Sigh. Xia Chen's sigh was filled with helplessness. Xia Chen's sigh was coincidentally heard by Cold Moon, who had just returned to the Radiant Moon Palace. Cold Moon curled her lips. Was Bamboo Monarch's eldest disciple sighing and lamenting that Bamboo Monarch was a troublesome person? From Tsang Yu's point of view, the Bamboo Monarch was indeed a troublesome person. He was still so affectionate despite his age. Isn't it good to be single like me? Hem in. Whoever dared to chase him was lusting after his body, and he would definitely break the legs of those who dare to chase him. Just like Marquis Jingshi, who was still sitting in a wheelchair. When they arrived at the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, Lin Yuan hurriedly took out the food basket from the diamond face storage box and said to the Moon Empress, Master, this is the crab dumpling that Lu Jie made this morning. It's still warm. The Moon Empress replied with a smile. Then we can have some snacks for lunch. At noon, I'll make you a honey lotus pond carp. I learned how to make this from Tsang Yue. Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Mystic Moon, who was standing at the side, didn't dare to speak. Moon Empress, are you sure that every time you want to cook for His Young Highness, it's good for him? Although the food you cook is not bad and can be eaten, but it definitely couldn't compare to a tiny restaurant that only had a few customers in a day. Honey lotus pond carp? The Moon Empress can't be thinking of stewing those diamond spirit siphon goldfish in the lotus pond with the silver auspicious gold luster cassia nectar, right? Chapter 1086. In the past, As long as the Moon Empress did not move her chopsticks for half an hour, the food would turn cold. No matter how precious the ingredients were, the Moon Empress would not take another bite. I wonder how many bottom lines the Moon Empress has crossed in front of the young lord. Just as she was about to mourn for the diamond spirit siphon goldfish in the lotus pond, Lin Yuan said, "Master, I'm going to Zhong Zhe's place for lunch. Master, I'm going to Zhong Zhe's place for lunch at noon. We made an appointment in advance." The Moon Empress was a little surprised. She did not expect Lin Yuan to befriend the Chef Supreme's little disciple. She had seen Zhong Zhe before, and in her opinion, Zhong Zhe was definitely a strange child. However, the Moon Empress would not reject Lin Yuan eating with his friends. On the contrary, as Lin Yuan's master, the Moon Empress hoped that Lin Yuan could interact more with the outside world and make more friends. Compared to how strong Lin Yuan had become, the Moon Empress hoped that Lin Yuan would have a peaceful and carefree life. She recalled that she had given Lin Yuan a fey made from the sacred source life form, the origin water, and asked, "Little Yuan, have you nurtured the origin water? Little Yuan, have you nurtured the origin water?" Lin Yuan nodded and was about to summon Blue Jade for the Moon Empress to take a look when the Moon Empress continued, "Nurture it. Little Yuan, when you grow up, use it as your main fey or a fey with great strategic significance. Don't show it to others easily. When an enemy reveals their trump card, it's best to kill the person who sees your trump card. This way, you can guarantee that you will not be targeted." Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan nodded in agreement. It could be said that his master, the Moon Empress, had reminded him many times that only he knew his trump cards. Lin Yuan had known this principle for a long time. Lin Yuan had been doing this for a long time. Lin Yuan thought about how much the Moon Empress valued the pure spirit Qi in the glass-type Emperor Aura Spirit Jadeite. "Master, do you need pure spirit Qi?" The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan with a faint smile and reached out to touch the glass-type Emperor Aura Spirit Jadeite. No spirit Qi professional doesn't need pure spirit Qi, and I am no exception. The spirit Qi contained in this glass-type Imperial Aura Spirit Jade is much purer than the spirit Qi concocted by a Class 5 Creation Master. Such pure spirit Qi can already allow some fays that have a special reaction to highly concentrated spirit Qi to stimulate their body's genetic model and even obtain a chance to purify their bloodline. Of course, even if the concentration can't purify the bloodline immediately, it's still good to trigger the genetic model. After saying that, the Moon Empress took the glass-type Emperor Charm Spirit Jadeite in front of Lin Yuan. Although the spirit Qi that I concoct is not as concentrated as the spirit Qi contained in the glass-type Imperial Charm Spiritual Jade, it is almost there. The pure spiritual energy in this glass-type Emperor Aura Spirit Jade will undoubtedly be better for you to use. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan felt a warm current gush out of his heart. This heat almost made Lin Yuan's eyes turn red. At such a time, his master, the Moon Empress, had chosen to leave the treasure to him when it was useful to him. Lin Yuan felt that there was no need to hide the fact that he possessed pure spirit Qi from his master, who was so considerate towards him. However, as the Moon Empress disciple, Lin Yuan would remember every instruction from the Moon Empress. Therefore, Lin Yuan would not choose to expose Morbius Spirit Lock's spatial zone and his body secret. After thinking about it, Lin Yuan chose to use another method to give the pure spirit Qi to the Moon Empress. "Master, how much pure spirit Qi do you need?" The Moon Empress looked at Lin Yuan and did not understand why he would ask such a question. Such a precious resource like pure spirit Qi would normally only be used to trigger a phase genetic model, allowing fays that are sensitive to highly concentrated spirit Qi to stimulate their bloodline. Therefore, I don't need to consume a lot of high-concentrated spirit Qi. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan asked again, "What if I keep using high-concentrated spirit Qi to nurture fays and raise their grade and quality?" When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's words, she did not know how to answer for a moment. After staying silent for a moment, the Moon Empress said, "It is naturally beneficial to use high-concentrated spirit Qi to nurture phase and raise their grade and quality. Of the two phase, one will be enhanced to bronze grade with pure spirit chi, while the other will be enhanced to bronze grade with ordinary spirit chi. Their grade and quality are the same, and their combat power does not seem to be much different. However, in the end, the Fae nurtured with pure spirit chi will definitely defeat the Fae nurtured with ordinary spirit chi. When Lin Yuan had realized that his phase grade was too low, he had thought of asking Master Hong Shun to concoct a spirit fluid to help increase his phase grade. Ultimately, after a mental struggle, Lin Yuan suppressed the idea of asking Master Hong Shun for help. Now that he had asked the Moon Empress this question, Lin Yuan's other thoughts had completely vanished. This was because Lin Yuan was even more determined to use the best nurturing method to let his phase advance to the strongest path. After asking the two questions, Lin Yuan said to the Moon Empress in a solemn tone, "Master, I have spirit chi with a higher concentration than this glass-type Emperor Charm Spirit Jade. Master, I have spirit chi with a higher concentration than the spirit chi in this glass-type Emperor Charm Spirit Jade." Originally, Lin Yuan was planning to give her some spirit chi crystals. He had originally planned to give his master, the Moon Empress, some spirit chi crystals. He had yet to count the spirit chi crystals that the Pure Land of Bliss had obtained from absorbing the Karma Gladiolus and the pre-ordered Water Lotus World Grace. Moreover, if he wanted to obtain spirit chi crystals in the future, he would only need to absorb the World Grace after the Myth Breed Phase World Cleansing. It wasn't hard to obtain a Myth Breed Phase World Grace. If he wanted to, he could receive a few on StarWeb now. However, based on what the Moon Empress had just said, he knew that she had not used much pure spirit chi at once. The spirit chi crystal had another drawback. After the spirit chi crystal was crushed, the pure spirit energy contained in the spirit chi crystal would be exhausted immediately. Otherwise, the pure spirit chi within the spirit chi crystal would spill out into the world. Therefore, he needed to think of other ways to give pure spirit chi to the Moon Empress. At that moment, Lin Yuan thought of a flower fae, the spirit containment peony, that was unique to Leaning Moon Mountain's garden and had never been seen in the outside world. With that in mind, Lin Yuan said, "That's right. Master, please give me a cultivation room and a spirit-containing peony. In half an hour, I will be able to give you spirit chi with a higher concentration than this glass Emperor Aura Spirit Jade." Chapter 1087. If someone else had said this, the Moon Empress would not have believed it. However, it was Lin Yuan who said it. Even if he was joking with her, the Moon Empress was willing to listen to him. When she thought about the golden lotus brocade stalks that Lin Yuan had given her, the Moon Empress felt that Lin Yuan was not lying. The Moon Empress immediately asked Cold Moon, who had just returned to the inner palace, to prepare the spirit-containing peony for Lin Yuan. Then she said to Lin Yuan, "Little Yuan, the breeding room next to my breeding room is for you. If you want to nurture phase in the Radiant Moon Palace, just go to that breeding room. Apart from your breeding room, no one else will be able to enter." In a short while, Cold Moon returned to the Radiant Moon Palace with the spirit-containing peony. Lin Yuan saw that Cold Moon Empress was holding a large handful of golden and red peonies. There were at least 8 or 9 of them. The roots of these spirit-containing peonies were still covered in soil. From the color of the soil, Lin Yuan could tell that the soil was completely produced in the swamp world. When the Moon Empress saw Cold Moon holding the spirit-containing peonies, her eyelids twitched. The Moon Empress had always known that Cold Moon was not feminine and did not like flowers. However, Cold Moon was too majestic to be so ruthless in urging flowers. How could anyone pursue such a Cold Moon? When a Moon Empress saw that Lin Yuan was also looking at the spirit-containing peonies in Cold Moon's hands, she explained to him, "These spirit-containing peonies are a special fae that I used a high concentration of spirit chi and swamp soil to induce evolution and mutation. Using these spirit-containing peonies to store pure spirit chi can indeed prevent the pure spirit chi from leaking out." What Lin Yuan valued was the spirit-containing peonies' ability. The spirit-containing peonies could absorb the outside environment's spirit chi and store it in the flower. When the spirit containing peony's flower was filled with pure spirit chi, the bowl-sized flower would shrink into a flower bud that was half the size of a fist. When the spirit chi in the flower bud was exhausted, the flower bud would once again bloom into a bowl-sized flower. It could be said to be very magical. What he needed to do was to let the soul paper peony absorb the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone and let each soul paper peony blossom 5 to 6 golden red flowers into flower buds. At that time, his master, the Moon Empress, would be able to freely use the pure spirit chi in the nightmare spirit peony's flower bud. She would need to crush it and use it up like spirit chi crystals. When he arrived at the breeding room that the Moon Empress had specially built for him in the Radiant Moon Palace, he was immediately stunned by everything inside. It could be said that the incubation room that the Moon Empress had built for herself was exactly the same as the Moon Empress' original incubation room. The tools in the breeding room were almost identical as well. After closing the door to the breeding room, he took a deep breath and entered the spirit lock spatial zone with the 10 nightmare spirit peonies he had received from Cold Moon. After entering the spirit lock spatial zone, Lin Yuan immediately dealt with the 10 soul battle peonies that Cold Moon had uprooted. These nightmare spirit peonies all had some swamp soil on them. If he planted these nightmare spirit peonies on the pure land of bliss, the swamp soil would definitely contaminate the pure land of bliss pure white sand. However, he could not plant them on the pure land of bliss either. Roots were abnormally important for plant phase. If he didn't plant them on the pure land of bliss and let these nightmare spirit peonies' broken roots recover, it would definitely affect the state of the nightmare spirit peonies' flowers. This would cause each golden red peony to absorb less spirit chi. When Lin Yuan dealt with the swamp soil on the 10 nightmare spirit peonies' roots, the nightmare spirit peonies had already started to absorb the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. Each nightmare spirit peony could only absorb a limited amount of pure spirit chi and couldn't replace the spirit chi crystals that contained a massive amount of pure spirit chi. However, the nightmare spirit peonies were an excellent way for Lin Yuan to bring the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone to the outside world. After meticulously dealing with the swamp soil on the nightmare spirit peonies' roots, Lin Yuan planted the 10 nightmare spirit peonies side by side on the pure land of bliss. The nightmare spirit peonies that were planted on the pure land of bliss quickly recovered their health. As their bodies swayed, they stored the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone into the flowers. After watching for a few minutes, Lin Yuan realized that the speed at which the nightmare spirit peonies stored pure spirit chi wasn't as fast as he had imagined. After a few minutes, the bowl-sized peonies only showed signs of shrinking. Lin Yuan didn't bother about the nightmare spirit peonies and let them slowly absorb the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone. Upon seeing that Genius was using the interconnection tales to teach the 500 questions beasts about creation master knowledge, Lin Yuan walked forward and rubbed Genius' little head. Genius, let me use the spirit chi crystals to increase your grade. When the time comes, you'll be able to teach these 100 questions beasts more easily. After the previous evolution, Genius had 3 bronze tails, 1 more tail when it became a fantasy breed, and another tail when it reached silver. Now, the silver /fantasy Genius already had 5 tails. Lin Yuan felt that as Genius's grade continued to increase, the number of tails would increase as well. The increase in the number of tails allowed Genius' exclusive skill, the interconnection tails, to increase the number of targets it could connect to. This was also the same as increasing the efficiency of Genius' exclusive skill, the interconnection tails. When Genius heard Lin Yuan's words, it let out a delighted meow. Lin Yuan, now that Genius's grade has increased, Genius will be able to help Lin Yuan even more. Genius wants to help Lin Yuan even more. Upon hearing Genius's words, Lin Yuan carried Genius up. Lin Yuan thought to himself while rubbing Genius's furry tail. Genius, this little fellow is always so considerate. Chami was currently live streaming on Star Web, and Lin Yuan didn't disturb it while watching it. Gray, which had been locked up in the spirit-locked spatial zone, immediately came over when it saw Lin Yuan. Following closely behind Gray was the wind-speed rapid antelope, which had been upgraded to legend after consuming the wind-type heavenly mating grade elemental pearls. When Lin Yuan saw Gray flying to his side, he felt a headache. Lin Yuan's headache wasn't because Gray was clingy, but because Gray couldn't enter the main world to absorb the natural weather. Although there were weather changes in the dimensional world, Lin Yuan didn't feel at ease letting Gray out even in the main world. It was even more impossible to let Gray out in the dimensional world and let it wantonly absorb the weather in the dimensional world. Lin Yuan's foundation was almost all in the main world, and his master, the Moon Empress, was also in the royal capital. If there was really a problem because of Gray's identity as the favored spirit with his master around, there was always a possibility of calming things down. However, if Gray absorbed the weather in the swamp world and caused the weather changes in the swamp world to attract powerful apostles, all of Lin Yuan's arrangements in the swamp world would be destroyed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1088. Therefore, how to increase Gray's strength had become Lin Yuan's current problem. As for the wind speed rapid antelope, it should be about to welcome a fortuitous opportunity. Lin Yuan looked at the wind speed rapid antelope's new green fur and khaki fur that was about to fade. He knew that the wind speed rapid antelope's bloodline would evolve soon. Lin Yuan played with Gray for 3 to 5 minutes and continued to feed the wind speed rapid antelope a wind elemental pearl. Lin Yuan squatted on the ground and counted the spirit chi crystals he had obtained from the Karma Gladiolus and the world grace of the water lotus. After counting, Lin Yuan realized that he had obtained a total of 840 spirit chi crystals this time. This made Lin Yuan abnormally happy, and he felt a sense of security from having a massive amount of resources. The spirit chi crystals in Lin Yuan's hands were different from before. One spirit chi crystal was equivalent to 10 before. Previously, 19 spirit chi crystals had been needed to upgrade silver I/fantasy I genius to gold. Now, only 2 spirit chi crystals were needed. This time, Lin Yuan took out a total of 211 spirit chi crystals. Lin Yuan calculated that these 211 spirit chi crystals were enough for genius to upgrade to diamond I/fantasy. Lin Yuan had originally planned to let genius reach diamond X. However, it was clearly unrealistic to use 840 spirit chi crystals to raise genius grade to diamond X/fantasy I. Even if he used all of them, he could only upgrade genius to diamond 7/fantasy I at most. Therefore, Lin Yuan planned to keep the remaining 519 spirit chi crystals to enhance his other phase. There was not much difference between upgrading genius to diamond I and diamond X. Lin Yuan mainly wanted to see if genius could obtain a trace of fortuitous opportunity or use and grasp soul power through abilities. This way, genius could upgrade from a pinnacle class 3 creation master to a pinnacle class 4 creation master. It was a known fact that genius had already learned the knowledge of class 4 scholar, class 4 Fey observer, and class 4 spiritual ingredient analyst. As Lin Yuan constantly crushed the 211 spirit chi crystals, genius grade was also constantly increasing. This time, genius grade wasn't as painful as when it had become a fantasy breed. Everything happened naturally. The original 5 tails on genius back kept increasing, and a 6th and a 7th tail grew out of it. Genius fur had also become softer and finer. The biggest change was in genius eyes. Genius's original eyes were azure blue, and they looked like blue tourmalines that could be seen into the depths of the world. However, genius, which was constantly advancing, had the aura of a king surging in its eyes. The originally blue tourmaline eyes were also filled with a layer of glass-like substance. This layer of material faintly emitted the power of souls. When Lin Yuan sensed the soul spirit power emitting from genius, he had a delighted expression as he crushed the last spirit chi crystal. When Lin Yuan crushed the last spirit chi crystal, the 8th white tail grew out from genius back. Lin Yuan did not know how to describe Genius, which had reached Diamond Eye/Fantasy Eye, for a moment. It was clearly a small beast that was only the size of 2 palms, but it had 8 fluffy and elegant long tails that were almost twice as long as its body. Not only did the 8 long tails on the 2 palm-sized little beasts not look bloated, but it also gave off a kind of otherworldly aura. Each long tail was like white silk that was dancing in the wind, and it was even smoother and elegant than white silk. While Lin Yuan was still in a daze, Genius had already pounced into Lin Yuan's embrace and spoke in a childish voice. Lin Yuan, Genius can now do things that only Class 4 Creation Masters can do. But Lin Yuan can do these things that only Class 4 Creation Masters can do. Genius should do things that a Class 3 Creation Master can do. Genius can now use its soul spirit power to concoct Class 3 spirit liquids much faster than before. After speaking to Lin Yuan, Genius meowed and called the 50-100 questions beasts in the spirit lock spatial zone over. Genius then walked in front of each 100 questions beast and shot out a spiritual energy thread from its eyes, injecting it into each 100 questions beast body. It was as though Genius had placed its mark on each 100 questions beast, and each 100 questions beast had become Genius possession. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan used Morbius True Data to check on Genius. Fey name: Internet of All Things Beast, Fey Species, Spirit Cat Species / Smart Cat Species, Fey Grade, Diamond, 1/10, Fey Type, Spiritual / Soul, Fey Quality, Fantasy Eye Abilities Frowny Face Precise Memory. When memorizing something, it is able to accurately remember every detail. Knowledge Analysis, able to conduct a multifaceted analysis of the memorized knowledge. Based on the details of the knowledge, it will be able to make the most conjecture according to the knowledge. Spiritual Expansion, uses the host's spiritual energy as the contractor's spiritual energy reserve. The contractor might not be able to casually use the spiritual expansion to increase the spiritual energy reserve, but when the host receives spiritual damage, the host can use the spiritual expansion's spiritual energy to resist. Smart Cat Spirit, the pioneer life form of the smart cat species that created the glory of the smart cat species. Able to use spiritual energy to form a contract with other smart cat species life forms to control the life and death of the smart cat species phase. It will also be able to share the smart cat species' spiritual energy. Spirit Substitution, through the interaction between different spiritual energy, it will cause a change in spiritual energy. It will consume spiritual energy to convert spiritual energy into soul spirit power. Spirit Tail Stimulation. When using soul spirit power, it can consume a tail to double the original soul spirit power. Without a tail, the spirit tail stimulation will not be able to be used. Exclusive Trait Frowny Face Tool Transformation, able to turn into a tool for the contractor to use. Connected Tail, link life forms according to the number of tails. The linked life forms will be able to share thoughts and have a telepathic connection. At a glance, Lin Yuan realized that Genius, which had reached Diamond Eye/Fantasy Eye, was no longer a pure spiritual type. It had become a spiritual soul dual type Fey. It also meant that Lin Yuan didn't need to worry about the problem that he had been thinking about previously. Genius had solved it perfectly during its evolution process. At the same time, Lin Yuan also knew what was going on with Genius's behavior in front of every 100 questions beast. Genius had used its gold ability, Smart Cat Spirit, to form a contract with the other 100 questions beasts. Genius used its spiritual energy to form a contract with the other 100 questions beasts to control their life and death. At the same time, it unilaterally shared the other 100 questions beasts' spiritual energy. When Lin Yuan saw the Smart Cat Spirit's introduction under True Data, he blinked. End of this chapter. Chapter 1089. The pioneer of the intelligent cat genus. The glory of the intelligent cat genus. There were many species of spirit cats, but there was only one species of intelligent cats. It was the 100 questions beast. The 100 questions beast had never evolved before. It could be said that Genius was the first 100 Questions beast to evolve into a fae. It was not impossible to say that Genius was the pioneer of the intelligent cat family, and it had created the glory of the intelligent cat family. Could the smart cat spirit ability be related to Genius being the first 100 Questions beast to evolve into a fae? However, Lin Yuan could only guess about this and had no way to verify it. As a soundbird, Chimey had been the pioneer of the soundbird bloodline all the way until now. However, it wasn't as if soundbirds had never evolved before. The songstress bird had evolved from soundbirds. Hence, Chimey's situation was different from Genius. Since it was a problem that could not be verified, Lin Yuan did not want to waste time to look into it. He turned around and continued to check on Genius' platinum skill, soul replacement. It seemed like Genius had used its platinum skill, soul replacement, to convert its mental strength into soul power. According to the skill introduction of the platinum skill, spirit replacement, Genius had to rely on the interaction between different mental powers to convert mental power into soul power. Genius skill, the intelligent cat spirit, could unilaterally share the mental power of other 100 Questions beasts. This also meant that the more 100 Questions beasts that Genius contracted with the smart cat spirit, the stronger Genius soul power would be. It seemed like he would have to purchase another batch of 100 Questions beasts for Genius to form a contract with. It wasn't that Lin Yuan hadn't thought about the 100 Questions beast's loyalty. His evolution of the 100 Questions beast had allowed the 100 Questions beast to obtain the abilities of a creation master. It was definitely a shocking matter. If this was leaked, it would definitely cause a revolution in the origin world. This was not what Lin Yuan wanted to see. However, Lin Yuan also had a solution for the 100 Questions beast's loyalty. It was to keep the 100 Questions beasts in the spirit lock spatial zone. However, now that Genius had used its ability, Smart Cat Spirit, to form a contract with these 100 Questions beasts, Lin Yuan would never have to worry about the 100 Questions beast's loyalty. When he saw Genius Diamond ability, Spirit Tail, he frowned slightly. Genius Diamond level skill, Spirit Tail Stimulation, was a method to increase soul power. It was just that this kind of amplification effect required one to be smart enough to use their tails as the price behind it. When Genius had evolved from the 1,000 Questions beast to the internet of everything beast, he had personally witnessed the pain Genius had suffered when its tail had been severed. If possible, he would never want Genius to use its Diamond Spirit Tail Stimulation. Furthermore, before Genius became a Class 5 Creation Master, Lin Yuan didn't need Genius to do anything that a Class 4 Creation Master had to do. It wasn't easy for Genius to become a Class 5 Creation Master. In order to become a Class 5 Creation Master, one couldn't simply grasp knowledge. To be smart, one needed to carve out a path of their own. It did not take long for Lin Yuan to upgrade Genius to Diamond I/Fantasy I. Seeing that there were still over 10 minutes left, Lin Yuan started to seriously consider which Fae he should enhance next. In fact, there weren't many Faes that Lin Yuan could use Spirit Chi crystals to increase their grade and quality. Genius was done with its advancement. What was left was Chimey, Jasmine Lily, Little Black, Purple Firmament, Source Sand, and the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. As for the Ethereal Jellyfish, he couldn't continue to upgrade it even if he wanted to. The Ethereal Jellyfish was now at Diamond X/Legend, and it only needed to comprehend the Willpower Rune to successfully become a fantasy breed. At the thought of the Ethereal Jellyfish, Lin Yuan immediately thought of the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee, which was similar to the Ethereal Jellyfish. After eating the last 2 Source Seeds, Red Thorn had been metamorphosing for a period of time. However, after such a long time, Red Thorn's metamorphosis had yet to be completed, causing the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee to be in low spirits. Lin Yuan immediately summoned the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee. When the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee heard Lin Yuan calling for it, it forcefully perked up. However, even when it was in front of Lin Yuan, the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's eyes were still fixed in Red Thorn's direction. It was as though it was expecting Red Thorn to suddenly wake up. Upon seeing the Acid Corrosion Queen Bee's dejected appearance, Lin Yuan said, "Acid Corrosion Queen Bee, Red thorn is evolving. Acid corrosion queen bee. Red thorn's evolution is a good thing. Do you have to be so sad? After red thorn wakes up, the house you live in can also become bigger. Lin Yuan still remembered that red thorn had issued 4 evolution requests to him before falling asleep. Finally, after some consideration, he had chosen to let red thorn evolve its digestive and devouring abilities. The organ that dominated red thorn's digestive and devouring abilities was the mouth of Relinquish. This meant that after the evolution, red thorn's mouth of Relinquish was destined to change more than before. Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the acid corrosion queen bee was still listless. It did not care whether its house would become bigger or not. It just blindly hoped that red thorn could wake up soon. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan could not help but sigh. There must be true love between the acid corrosion queen bee and red thorn. The acid corrosion queen bee's grade had already been upgraded to platinum I. Now that there were extra spirit chi crystals, Lin Yuan planned to upgrade the acid corrosion queen bee to diamond X/legend. This way, the acid corrosion queen bee could also comprehend its own willpower rune from the world like the ethereal jellyfish and become a fantasy breed. Since the acid corrosion queen bee was not a fantasy breed fae, the spirit chi crystals that Lin Yuan needed to upgrade its grade were 10 times less than that of other fantasy breed faes of the same grade. In order to upgrade the acid corrosion queen bee to diamond X, Lin Yuan needed to consume 109 spirit chi crystals. After Lin Yuan crushed the 109 spirit chi crystals, the acid corrosion queen bee's grade rapidly increased. During the upgrade, the acid corrosion queen bee's appearance underwent a drastic change. The diamond acid corrosion queen bee's abdomen was still abnormally swollen like before. At a glance, it was a female bee that could give birth. However, the other parts of the acid corrosion queen bee had become full of edges, and the 2 stingers at the front had become the shape of a Mitsubishi thorn. When attacking a target, the triangular spikes could perfectly pierce through the target. The 2 stingers at the back of the tail had also shortened from the original slender needles to a relatively thick state. The 2 shortened stingers were convenient for the acid corrosion queen bee to stab the target when it twisted its swollen body. At the same time, the distance between the 2 shortened stingers became shorter so that when the acid corrosion queen bee stabbed the target with 1 stinger, the other stinger would follow at the same time. The acid corrosion queen bee's body was originally dark red with many green metal spots, which was very conspicuous. Now that it had reached diamond, it was unknown if it was to match the color of the red thorn sea of flowers, but its entire body had turned grayish-green. Into this chapter, Chapter 1090. It could be said that the diamond acid corrosion queen bee's color had become much simpler. Under the cover of red thorn's carnivorous vines, the acid corrosion queen bee could be called an excellent hidden killer. He used Morbius True data to check the acid corrosion queen bee's exclusive skill. Fae name, acid corrosion queen bee, Fae species, wasp/hornet species, Fae grade, diamond, 10 out of 10, Fae type, source/poison, Fae quality, legend abilities frowny face wing concealment, flaps its wings at a high frequency. The rapidly flapping reflective wings will cause the acid corrosion queen bee to enter a certain state of invisibility. Bone-piercing sting. The rotating sting with super hardness and impact can cause bone-piercing injuries. Parasitic pupa. The stinger on the acid corrosion queen bee's forelimb can release a rapidly incubating parasitic pupa into the target's body. Acid-swallowing larva. The acid corrosion queen bee will hatch a large number of acid-swallowing larvae when there is enough acid. As the acid corrosion queen bee's rations, the acid-swallowing larvae can quickly recover the acid corrosion queen bee's consumed energy and venom reserves. At the same time, the acid-swallowing larvae will replicate a portion of the acid corrosion queen bee's mother's genes. If the mother dies, the replicated genes will be activated, making the acid-swallowing larvae a new mother. Acid corpse bee goo. Consumes a large amount of acid in the body to produce an acid corpse bee goo. The acid corpse bee goo lives in a dead fae or dimensional life form. and can control the dead Fae or dimensional life forms' movements. If the acid corpse be Gu's host Fae or dimensional life form is not activated by the acid corrosion queen bee, it will turn into a chrysalis again. Bee Queen's Sorrow. When a queen bee dies, the two toxins in the queen bee's stinger will quickly take effect. The two toxins will fuse together to cause the queen bee's mother to self-destruct. During the self-destruction process, the queen bee's body will eject the venom formed by the two stingers. The venom will automatically trigger the two-hit kill effect on the target. Exclusive skill Frowny Face 2-hit kill. The two stingers carry two different kinds of acid corrosion venom. If the two stingers hit the target at the same spot, the two toxins will fuse and instantly disintegrate the target's body. Upon seeing the acid corrosion queen bee's new ability, Queen Bee's Sorrow, Lin Yuan could not help but slap his thigh and laugh. It could be said that among all of his fays, the one that had never met Lin Yuan's expectations was the acid corrosion queen bee. The acid corrosion queen bee's lethality mainly came from its exclusive skill, 2-hit kill. However, it was too difficult to use the 2-strike sure kill skill to hit the same part of the enemy with 2 stingers. As his strength increased, the enemies he encountered were getting stronger, and the enemy phase intelligence was also getting higher. Therefore, the enemy phase would rely on their consciousness to avoid the 2 stingers on the acid corrosion queen bee's tail. However, the acid corrosion queen bee's new diamond skill, Queen Bee's Sorrow, solved the problem of the acid corrosion queen bee's 2-hit kill. At the same time, the acid corrosion queen bee's other skills were linked. The Queen Bee's Sorrow allowed the acid corrosion queen bee to rely on self-destruct to kill its target with a second hit. The acid corrosion queen bee's previous gold rank skill, Acid Devouring Larva, allowed the acid corrosion queen bee to revive using the genes replicated in the acid devouring larva. After reviving, the acid corrosion queen bee could continue to use the Queen Bee's Sorrow to attack the target. The parasitic wasp pupae and acid devouring larva could restore the acid corrosion queen bee's energy consumption and venom reserves. Such an acid corrosion queen bee could be called a nightmare for any fae lost in the sea of flowers. As for the acid corrosion queen bee's acid corpse bee Gu, Lin Yuan was originally prepared to spend a lot of resources to bid for some powerful abyss-dimensional lifeforms' corpses in the rare lifeform pavilion. He would let the acid corrosion queen bee occupy the dead abyss demon's corpse through the acid corpse bee Gu and control the abyssal demon's body as its puppet to fight. After all, among all the dimensional life forms, the abyssal demon's individual combat ability was the strongest among the same grade. However, the Class 6 Abyss Dimensional Rift dispelled Lin Yuan's idea. The faction created by Lin Yuan, Zhongzhe, Gulang, Long Tao, Gao Feng, and the others would explore the Abyss world. Since Lin Yuan had provided the faction with high-class Creation Master resources, he had the priority to choose the Abyss world spoils of war. At that time, Lin Yuan could choose the best Abyss demon's body as the acid corpse Bigu's host. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not need to be anxious about the acid corrosion queen Bigu's ability. As Lin Yuan upgraded Genius to Diamond I/Fantasy I and the acid corrosion queen B to Diamond X/Legend, he only had 510 spirit chi crystals left. At present, Lin Yuan only had 510 spirit chi crystals left. Such a number of spirit chi crystals was enough for Lin Yuan to continue upgrading his other phase. Lin Yuan looked at the time and realized that it had been almost half an hour since he entered the Spirit Lock spatial zone. At this time, Lin Yuan obviously did not have enough time to use spirit chi crystals to upgrade other phase. Therefore, Lin Yuan gave up on the idea of upgrading the Source Sans grade. Lin Yuan suddenly thought of the strange plant life form that had almost parasitized his body and been suppressed by Morbius at the price of sleeping. Lin Yuan took the strange plant life form's seed out of the amber button-shaped diamond face storage box. Before Lin Yuan could take a closer look at what was so special about this seed, the slumbering red thorn suddenly reacted. Through the bloodline connected to red thorn, Lin Yuan could feel Red Thorn's almost crazy desire for this strange plant seed in his hand. This desire was even stronger than when Red Thorn had devoured the two source seeds previously. This made Lin Yuan feel rather surprised. Lin Yuan could not do anything when he sensed Red Thorn's incessant desire for the strange plant seed. In any case, Lin Yuan could not find out the use of this strange plant seed, so he simply fed it to the evolving Red Thorn. After Red Thorn devoured this strange plant seed, its original desire immediately calmed down. After sensing Red Thorn's situation, Lin Yuan revealed a smile. This strange plant seed's devouring reduced Red Thorn's originally long evolution time. It also allowed Red Thorn to mutate in an unknown direction through the strange plant seed. Of course, this kind of mutation was on the premise of ensuring Red Thorn's original evolution direction and function. To put it bluntly, this kind of mutation was equivalent to giving Red Thorn an additional ability. With a greatly reduced evolution time, Red Thorn would be able to complete its evolution by tomorrow night. At that time, Lin Yuan would also be able to see how Red Thorn would evolve after absorbing the two source seeds and a strange plant seed. End of this chapter. Chapter 1091. After sensing Red Thorn's situation, Lin Yuan did not immediately check on the 10 spirit roasted peonies planted on the Pure Land of Bliss. Instead, he went to astrologer Ji Tan and prepared to collect its pollen for the second time. Just as Lin Yuan was collecting the pollen into the brocade box, Gray, who was playing with the wind speed rapid antelope, passed by Lin Yuan. It sprinkled some of astrologer Ji Tan's pollen on Lin Yuan. Upon seeing this, Lin Yuan hurriedly closed the brocade box and used his hand to hit his body a few times. Astrologer Ji Tan's pollen was very fine, and Lin Yuan was not infected with misfortune, so he could not smell it. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not know if he had cleaned up astrologer Ji Tan's pollen. After collecting astrologer Ji Tan's pollen, Lin Yuan went to the spirit roasted peonies. Lin Yuan found that these spirit roasted peonies' gold-sprinkled red flowers were still gently closing after half an hour. He did not know how long it would take for them to form flower buds. Lin Yuan took a spirit chi crystal and squeezed it with his fingers. The spirit chi crystal shattered. Lin Yuan hurriedly guided the huge spirit chi in this spirit chi crystal to one of the spirit roasted peonies. Very soon, the pure spirit energy in the spirit chi crystal turned the 5 golden red flowers on the nightmare spirit peony into flower buds. After the 5 gold-sprinkled red flowers turned into flower buds, the pure spirit chi in the spirit chi crystal did not consume much. Lin Yuan estimated that it had consumed at most 1/10 of the spirit chi. After looking at the remaining spirit roasted peonies, Lin Yuan did not choose to inject the spirit chi in the spirit chi crystal into the other 9 spirit roasted peonies. Lin Yuan planned to give his master 1 spirit roasted peonies first. He wanted to see if the pure spirit chi in the spirit roasted peonies flower buds would be helpful to the Moon Empress. Leaving these 9 spirit roasted peonies could allow them to freely absorb the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone and save the consumption of spirit chi crystals. On the other hand, Lin Yuan wanted to try to cultivate the spirit roasted peonies. This way, the pure spirit chi in the spirit lock spatial zone could become a precious resource that could be exchanged through the spirit roasted peonies. Lin Yuan had already thought of how to use this resource. Even if the pure spirit chi could be exchanged, Lin Yuan only planned to provide it to the Moon Empress. His master, the Moon Empress, could use the pure spirit chi to display other values and expand her status and influence among the Class 5 Creation Masters. He did not waste the remaining 90% of the spirit chi in the spirit chi crystal. Instead, he took out dozens of snake fays that he had collected for Wendy. Lin Yuan used the remaining 90% of the spirit chi in the spirit chi crystal to raise them to bronze. This way, these snake fays could be given to Wendy and let her use her talent, Snake Descendants Paradise, to turn them into snake hair. This way, Lin Yuan Yu, Zhong Yuan, Dragon, Zhong Yuan's Dragon Fey, Roasted Thorn Yu, and Spirit Chi. After tidying up everything, Lin Yuan suddenly recalled that he had yet to prepare a small gift for Zhongzhe. Soul of spirit peonies, thorn, Lin Yuan's spirit roared star. After peeling off a pile of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls with the Cloud Dream Lake and fixed Bliss Life pearls, a colorful fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl appeared in front of him. Lin Yuan did not expect to find another heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl with the goddess roasted star. After taking out the heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl, he vigorously rummaged through the pile of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls. Apart from a few scattered heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls of various elements, he did not find another heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl with the goddess roasted star. After thinking for a moment, Lin Yuan planned to give this heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl to Zhongzhe as a small gift. The fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl would definitely be useful to Zhongzhe. However, Lin Yuan thought that even if Zhongzhe was the Chef Supreme's disciple, he should not be willing to let his fae absorb this heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl with the goddess roasted star. Due to the scarcity of heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearls, Lin Yuan had only found 2 so far. They were both fire-type. Therefore, Lin Yuan did not intend to let such rare items flow into the market. In Lin Yuan's opinion, it was most suitable to give a friend a heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl with the goddess roasted star as a gift. After confirming the small gift for Zhongzhe, Lin Yuan placed this fire-type heavenly maiden-grade elemental pearl into a brocade pouch woven for brocade. Then, he took the black spirit peony, which had 5 golden red flowers that had turned into flower buds, and a brocade box of astrology wisdom cloud pollen, leaving the spirit locked spatial zone and returning to the breeding room. After returning to the breeding room, Lin Yuan did not stay there. Instead, he left the breeding room. Lin Yuan's breeding room was built in the Radiant Moon Palace's inner palace, just like the Moon Empress breeding room. Therefore, when Lin Yuan opened the breeding room's door, he immediately saw the Moon Empress, who was drinking tea and waiting for him in the inner palace. He also saw Cold Moon and Mystic Moon beside her. Even now, Cold Moon and Mystic Moon were looking at Lin Yuan in disbelief. This was because Cold Moon and Mystic Moon were still unable to completely digest what Lin Yuan had just said. They did not think that Lin Yuan had any means to produce spirit chi that had a higher concentration than the glass-type Emperor spirit containing jade. Even the spirit chi concocted by the Moon Empress had a lower concentration than the glass-type Emperor spirit containing jade. The Moon Empress might be a Class 5 Creation Master, but this was definitely because there were no more grades above Class 5 Creation Masters. At present, the Radiance Federation's 3 Class 5 Creation Masters, the Moon Empress, Chef Supreme, and Bamboo Monarch, each had their own specialties. Among them, the Moon Empress was definitely the strongest in producing pure spirit chi, while the Bamboo Monarch was relatively weaker. However, the Bamboo Monarch was the strongest among the 3 Class 5 Creation Masters in creating artifacts. If Young Lord could produce spirit chi that was purer than the Moon Empress, wouldn't he become an existence that transcended the entire Radiance Federation? Lin Yuan walked in front of his master, the Moon Empress, and his face bloomed with a sunny smile, revealing his small white teeth. He handed the black spirit peony, which had 5 flower buds, to the Moon Empress. Master, what do you think of the black spirit peony's spirit chi concentration? The Moon Empress did not immediately take the black spirit peony from Lin Yuan's hand. Instead, she looked at Lin Yuan's sunny smile and was stunned. This smile made the Moon Empress feel as though she was in the hot summer of August. Her entire body and mind were filled with warmth and satisfaction under this smile. End of this chapter. Chapter 1092. At this moment, only the rustling of the lotus leaves in the lotus pond could be heard in the inner palace of the Radiant Moon Palace. The Moon Empress felt that when Lin Yuan handed over the poison spirit peony, it was like a child who had picked up something good and was happily handing it to his parents. After being startled for a moment, the Moon Empress involuntarily revealed the same smile on Lin Yuan's face. However, When the Moon Empress took the spirit paper peony from Lin Yuan's hand and activated the flower bud to let it release spirit chi, the Moon Empress' eyes widened. The Moon Empress immediately revealed a horrified expression that she had not seen for decades. The Moon Empress' other hand suddenly clenched tightly. The change in the Moon Empress aura immediately attracted Cold Moon and Black Moon's attention. When Cold Moon and Mystic Moon saw the Moon Empress expression, they looked at Lin Yuan as though they were looking at a monster. Based on the Moon Empress expression, Cold Moon and Mystic Moon knew that the spirit chi that Lin Yuan had concocted was indeed superior to the glass-type Emperor spirit containing jade. The Moon Empress, who had a shocked expression on her face, suddenly had a rather strange feeling. Thinking back to the time when he had the idea of accepting a disciple, he had set a threshold. Lin Yuan was the only one who met the requirements and became a Class 2 Creation Master during his first Creation Master exam. After understanding Lin Yuan's background and character, the Moon Empress treated him as her disciple and loved him. Back then, the Moon Empress still remembered that Lin Yuan had said that the most important thing between a master and disciple was the relationship. Lin Yuan's words touched the Moon Empress and made her recall the old thing who had taught her. As they continued to interact, the relationship between the Moon Empress and Lin Yuan deepened. Even though they weren't related by blood, the bond that was passed down from generation to generation made the two of them even closer. The Moon Empress had always wanted to be a good master to pave the way for Lin Yuan and to give the best to him. Let Lin Yuan have a happy life. He didn't expect his disciple to help him so much in the end. Not long ago, the Moon Empress had just broken through that boundary, and that breakthrough could be said to be a narrow escape from death. After breaking through that boundary, even with the Moon Empress temperament, she didn't dare to take another step forward. However, with such pure spirit chi, the Moon Empress immediately saw hope that she could improve further. This hope did not require the Moon Empress to bear any risk. However, if he wanted the Moon Empress to progress further, the spirit chi in the refined spirit peony was obviously insufficient. At the same time, the Moon Empress had also contracted many phases, and several of them had extremely intense reactions to pure spirit chi. Even if the Moon Empress didn't use the pure spirit chi to evolve, she could just give it to the phase that had a huge reaction to the pure spirit chi. It could also allow his phase genetic model to evolve again and improve their strength. The Moon Empress felt that her strength would increase by at least 30%. At that moment, the little rabbit, who hid its carrot when it saw Lin Yuan, scuttled onto the table and used its nose to sniff the spirit holding Peony's bud. At that moment, the little rabbit's gaze toward Lin Yuan wasn't as aggrieved as before. Zishi felt that this guy who had eaten half of his carrot was no longer a nuisance, but a good person. Lin Yuan did not know that the Rabbit Emperor's good guy card had been attached to him. The Moon Emperor's heart stirred as she looked at Zishi, who was smelling the spirit Peony's bud. He had broken through to that realm before Zishi, but Zishi had been stuck at the same spot, unable to advance. With such pure spirit chi, Zishi should no longer be stuck at the same spot. However, for Zishi to rely on pure spirit chi to safely reach that realm, the pure spirit chi in these 5 flower buds was definitely not enough. There was a lot of pure spirit energy in the 5 flower buds of the Nightmare Spirit Peony. The pure spirit energy in each flower bud was comparable to the glass-type Emperor Spirit containing jade in the brocade box. However, the Moon Empress really couldn't open her mouth to ask for pure spirit chi from her disciple. At that moment, the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's voice. "Master, this is only the first stalk of Soul Hermetic Peony. In the future, I will give you more Soul Hermetic Peonies that have absorbed pure spiritual energy. As for the remaining 9 stalks of Nightmare Peony, I will divide them into cuttings. After that, I will provide you with 20 stalks of Nightmare Peony with 5 flower buds every week. At that time, whether you use these Nightmare Spirit Peony for yourself or use them like pollen, it's all up to you." When the Moon Empress heard Lin Yuan's words, she looked shocked again. The Moon Empress felt that in this short hour, she was more shocked than she had been in the past 10 years. This meant that she would be able to obtain 100 nightmare spirit peony flower buds every week. If he had so much pure spirit chi, then he wouldn't need to think about how to conserve it. She would just use it directly. In a few months, the pure spirit chi would be enough for her to take a big step forward. It would also allow Zishi in her other phase to undergo a complete transformation. The Moon Empress felt that Lin Yuan had given her a fated opportunity today. This fated opportunity would allow her to reduce her hard work by at least 30 years. The feeling of being given resources by her disciple was very wonderful and also very warm to the Moon Empress. It suddenly gave the Moon Empress a feeling that she could also rely on someone. When this feeling appeared, the Moon Empress felt a little helpless. Even someone as powerful as the Moon Empress couldn't quickly calm down this feeling that appeared for the first time in her life. At the same time, the Moon Empress also understood what Lin Yuan meant by use it like pollen. She wasn't the only one who needed pure spirit chi. He was a Class 5 creation master and could concoct pure spirit chi on his own. Those old fellows who weren't creation masters wouldn't be able to do it. Only God knew how desperate those old guys were for pure spiritual energy. The pure spirit chi that Lin Yuan had provided to him was simply too important. After Lin Yuan finished speaking, he handed a brocade box of astrologer Ji Tan's pollen to the Moon Empress. Master, the second wave of pollen has matured. With 4 or 5 more boxes of pollen, Wang Fuxiang's bad luck will be completely dispelled. The Moon Empress nodded in response. This time, he had brought astrologer Ji Tan's pollen over, and the bamboo monarch had completely regarded him as a benefactor. He didn't even know how to thank himself. It could be said that a portion of astrologer Ji Tan's pollen had been exchanged for a huge favor from bamboo monarch. In order to return the favor, the bamboo monarch did not hesitate to take out a treasure like the golden silk emperor bamboo. However, as the second and third boxes of astrologer Ji Tan's pollen were delivered to the purple bamboo garden, Ji Tan's pollen was sent to the purple bamboo garden. The bamboo monarch owed him a favor, and he would never be able to repay it. A favor from an eminence, especially a Class 5 creation master, was hard to come by. As a fellow eminence and a Class 5 creation master, the Moon Empress was naturally very clear about this. End of this chapter. Chapter 1093. Soon, the Moon Empress regained her composure from the shock of the pure spirit chi. After calming down, the Moon Empress pondered for a moment and knew that Lin Yuan wasn't able to concoct such pure spirit chi because he was a Class 5 creation master. If he wanted to become a Class 5 creation master, he would need to carve out a path that belonged to him. This path was definitely not going to be easy. Lin Yuan must be relying on a sacred source life form or a certain fey to be able to produce such pure spirit chi. This was her disciple's trump card, and the Moon Empress would not inquire too much about it. In the Moon Empress' opinion, with this trump card, Lin Yuan would be able to take over her position once he matured. When that time came, he would be able to enjoy his retirement in the glorious land like the previous 13 majesties. When the Moon Empress saw Lin Yuan standing in front of her, she once again felt that she was somewhat unqualified as a master. The Moon Empress had been closely observing Lin Yuan's footsteps, but it turned out that her observation was not meticulous enough. Unknowingly, his disciple had already gone further than he had imagined. The Moon Empress stood up and gently held Lin Yuan's hand before pulling him toward her breeding room. The Moon Empress was going to have a question-and-answer session with him before he went for lunch. He wanted to see if Lin Yuan had any knowledge that he wanted to grasp or questions that he did not understand. When they reached the breeding room, the Moon Empress recalled that the Abyss world was about to be revealed to the public. Disciple, do you have any preparations for the exploration of the Abyss world? Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan did not hide anything. He immediately formed a faction with Zhong Zhe, Gulang, Li Xian, Long Tao, Sun Ningxiang, Gao Feng, Lu Jie, and the others. He told his master, the Moon Empress, that he was preparing to explore the Abyss world. When the Moon Empress heard that it was Long Tao's idea and that she had instigated it, she was stunned. She could not help but discover Lin Yuan's interpersonal skills and leadership skills, which he had never shown in front of her. In the Moon Empress' opinion, interpersonal skills and leadership skills were essential qualities for a Radiance envoy. She didn't need to teach Lin Yuan these two qualities as he had already grasped them. Moreover, Lin Yuan, Gulang, Zhongzhe, Lu Jie, and Gao Feng were all disciples of Her Holiness. They were all popular candidates for the Radiance envoy position. Even Long Tao might become a member of the Radiant Light Knights. These people had banded together in advance. With common interests, they would definitely be able to support each other in the assessment. This was a good thing for the Moon Empress. Upon seeing that Lin Yuan already had ideas about the exploration of the Abyss and had put them into practice, the Moon Empress did not talk to him about the Abyss anymore. The exploration of the Abyss world was still in its initial stages. Lin Yuan would learn some secrets during his exploration of the Abyss, so there was no need to tell him now. Thinking that Lin Yuan was about to explore the dangerous Abyss, the Moon Empress' hand trembled. A cage made of dark purple metal that was 1 cubic meter in size appeared on the floor of the breeding room. A shadow was trapped in the iron cage. The shadow was struggling and roaring in the cage. However, when Shadow saw the Moon Empress, he immediately curled up in a corner of the cage while shivering. He was like a pitiful wretch who had been tortured countless times in fear. Upon sensing the faint aura of life in the shadow, Lin Yuan immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate the shadow in the cage. Upon seeing Lin Yuan looking at the dark purple metal cage, the Moon Empress said, "That's right. This is a level 11-8 tribulation dimensional creature, Void Shadow Fiend." Just as the Moon Empress was explaining to Lin Yuan found out about the Void Shadow Fiend's true data. Alien beast name: Void Shadow Fiend life form. Dimensional life form: alien beast grade. Level 11-8 tribulation talent specialty: frowny face, fleeing shadow / slaughter shadow. Usually, it can hide its body in the shadow of something. After entering the fleeing shadow state, only targets that are 2 life forms higher than it can sense it. During the attack, it can attack other target shadows. The targets can be defined as living individuals and inanimate individuals. After the target shadow is attacked, the injuries will be fed back to the main body. Upon seeing the Void Shadow Fiend's true data, Lin Yuan's pupils constricted. This was because Lin Yuan had never imagined that the one imprisoned in this iron cage was actually a rank 11, 8 tribulation abyssal demon. According to the original classification method for dimensional life forms, a level 11-8 tribulation dimensional creature should be classified as level 18. However, such a classification method was too complicated, and it was inconvenient to measure the combat power between dimensional life forms and phase. As a result, dimensional life forms that were equivalent to creation breed phase were all defined as level 11. However, in order to deal with the creation breed phase 8 tribulations, the strength of dimensional life forms was also divided according to the stages of the 8 tribulations. The Void Shadow Fiend in front of him, which was hidden in the shadows, was a dimensional life form that was comparable to a Monarch Class 10 creation breed 8th tribulation Fae. In fact, it was common knowledge that demon dimensional life forms were often stronger than dimensional life forms of the same grade. The Void Shadow Fiend in front of him was likely to be stronger than ordinary Pinnacle Emperor class phase. The water-drinking venom snake vulture that Lin Yuan had encountered previously was a level 11 tribulation dimensional life form. However, unlike this Void Shadow Fiend, the water-drinking venom snake vulture was a blessings believer. However, this level 11-8 tribulation Void Shadow Fiend was just an ordinary dimensional life form. This Void Shadow Fiend was a top-notch assassin or bodyguard due to its talent, fleeing shadow / slaughter shadow. It could hide in the target's shadow to protect the target or assassinate the enemy through the enemy's shadow at any time. After explaining to Lin Yuan what the thing in the cage was, the Moon Empress looked at the Void Shadow Fiend and said, "Void Shadow Fiend, this Empress originally planned to use you as a material to concoct a kind of spirit fluid. Now, this Empress will give you a chance to live. Use your soul as a cardboard, and use your faith as ink to write an oath of allegiance to this Empress disciple. Be this Empress disciple servant. Only by becoming this Empress disciple servant and obeying this Empress disciple's orders can you live. When the Moon Empress cold tone entered the Void Shadow Fiend's ears, the shadow shrouding the Void Shadow Fiend trembled. Lin Yuan did not know what his master had done to the Void Shadow Fiend before. However, it was clear that the Void Shadow Fiend was filled with fear. This made Lin Yuan's heart involuntarily have a trace of doubt. Weren't abyssal demons always fearless? Moreover, the Void Shadow Fiend was a level 11, 8 Tribulation high-ranking demon. Chapter 1094. The Class 11, 8th Disaster Dimensional Life Form, Void Shadow Devil, feared the Moon Empress from the bottom of its heart. However, the Void Shadow Devil, which was trembling in the shadows, emitted a vicious aura. In the eyes of ordinary people, when a dimensional life form was accepted as a believer by an apostle, it was a sign of losing its freedom. However, to dimensional life forms, becoming an apostle's believer was a lifelong goal. If they were fortunate enough to be transformed by the apostle's totem power into a believer, it would be an unparalleled honor for dimensional life forms. Regardless of becoming a believer or being transformed into a believer, they would need to contribute their power of faith to the apostle. If the Void Shadow Devil used its soul as a cardboard and used its faith as ink to write an oath of allegiance to Lin Yuan, with its faith, the Void Shadow Devil would no longer be able to become a believer of another apostle. Not to mention being transformed into a believer by another apostle using totem power. Under such circumstances, the Void Shadow Devil, which was much more intelligent than ordinary people, resisted the fear in its heart and wanted to resist. The vicious aura rising from the Void Shadow Devil's body penetrated the dark purple iron cage, and Lin Yuan felt a familiar aura. This aura was similar to Mystic Moon's aura and the aura from the strange plant seed that Red Thorn had absorbed. However, the Void Shadow Devil's aura was much fainter and only had a trace of it. In comparison, Lin Yuan was sure that this aura was an aura that only a Fae above the creation breed could possess. Lin Yuan's pupils shrank at the thought of this. This meant that the Whale Ocean Trade possessed power above the creation breed. Just as the Void Shadow Devil's aura was getting stronger and stronger, and Lin Yuan felt the pressure, a soft snort echoed. After the snort echoed, Lin Yuan wasn't affected at all. He only felt the pressure around him lighten. However, the Void Shadow Devil in the dark purple iron cage let out a mournful scream. Then, the shadow in the iron cage dissipated, and Lin Yuan finally saw the Void Shadow Devil's original body. Lin Yuan saw that the Void Shadow Devil was standing on 2 feet, and its body was only slightly over a meter tall. It had a small body, grayish-purple skin, and long, blackish-purple fingernails on both hands. When he saw the sharpness on the fingernails, Lin Yuan felt that the fingernails could easily cut through radium-uranium steel. At this moment, the nothingness shadow demon's aura, which had just risen up, had disappeared without a trace. It seemed extremely sluggish. Streams of purplish-black blood flowed out of his 7 orifices. It was obvious that he had suffered serious injuries. This was the second time Lin Yuan had seen the Moon Empress make a move. The first time Lin Yuan had seen the Moon Empress make a move was when Cheng Wu had sniped her in the royal capital's outskirts. Back then, his master, the Moon Empress, had only displayed Emperor-class power. However, Emperor-class combat power was simply unimaginable to Lin Yuan at that time. However, Emperor-class combat power was nothing to the current Lin Yuan. Even Lin Yuan could exchange a few blows with an ultimate Emperor Realm expert with his Holy Sword mode sword skills. As Lin Yuan continued to grow, Genius was also constantly grasping more knowledge. From the Hidden Moon Pavilion's information, he knew that they had signed an agreement 10 years ago. This agreement stated that the Majesties would not use powers above the Emperor level when fighting against each other. This was probably the reason why his master, the Moon Empress, had only displayed Emperor-class combat power. Now that he had seen the Moon Empress make a move for the second time, Lin Yuan was secretly shocked. With just a snort, the nothingness shadow demon, which had pinnacle Emperor-class combat power, had suffered such serious injuries. At this moment, Lin Yuan was a little confused. Lin Yuan had imagined that his master, the Moon Empress, was powerful, but it was clearly not as powerful as he had imagined. At this moment, Lin Yuan could only sigh in his heart. His master was too powerful. The Moon Empress looked at the nothingness shadow demon with eyes full of killing intent, but her tone was still cold. This Empress gave you a chance. Since you don't know how to appreciate favors, then this Empress. Before the Moon Empress could finish speaking, the nothingness shadow demon's knees went soft, and it knelt on the ground with its head lowered. Upon seeing this scene, Lin Yuan immediately felt the surge of faith power from the nothingness shadow demon. Then, the faith power from the nothingness shadow demon was transferred to his body. Lin Yuan had a feeling that if he accepted the nothingness shadow demon's faith power, the life and death of the void shadow demon would be completely in his hands from now on. He could use the faith power of the void shadow fiend to shatter the void shadow fiend's soul that had been imprinted with faith power. Lin Yuan only hesitated for a moment before choosing to accept the void shadow demon's loyalty. The void shadow fiend's power of faith that Lin Yuan accepted was immediately stored in the shrine between his two souls. While he was hesitating, when he sensed the power of faith transmitted by the void shadow devil, its eyes kept flickering. This was because the void shadow devil could sense Lin Yuan's control of its power of faith when it entered Lin Yuan's body for the contract. The power of faith was a power that only apostles could grasp and use in the abyss. How could this human be able to control the power of faith? Could it be that this human was an apostle? Lin Yuan and the Moon Empress naturally didn't know what the Void Shadow Demon was thinking. When a Moon Empress saw that the Void Shadow Fiend had used its faith and soul to offer its loyalty to Lin Yuan, she said to Lin Yuan, "Little Yuan, go and open this iron cage made of forbidden violet copper. With this Void Shadow Demon around, your safety will be guaranteed in the future." While speaking, the Moon Empress couldn't help but think of the path protector she had arranged for Lin Yuan. The Moon Empress had chosen the Mother of Bloodbath to be Lin Yuan's path protector because of the Mother of Bloodbath's background and its bloodline. However, the Moon Empress hadn't expected Lin Yuan to grow so quickly. Lin Yuan's rapid growth had rendered the Mother of Bloodbath, which the Moon Empress had arranged for him, useless. The Mother of Bloodbath's Emperor-class combat power was obviously not enough to protect Lin Yuan. Therefore, the Moon Empress had thought of arranging this Void Shadow Demon, which was rare in the abyss for Lin Yuan. Upon hearing the Moon Empress' words, Lin Yuan walked forward and opened the cage's door. Immediately after, Lin Yuan saw the Void Shadow Demon kneeling on the ground turn into a shadow and merge with his own shadow. Lin Yuan couldn't feel the Void Shadow Demon's existence at all. Feeling the Void Shadow Demon's powerful concealment ability, Lin Yuan suddenly had a kind of Source-type baptism on the Void Shadow Demon with the Source-type power that the Moon Empress had absorbed from the Lost Source Crystal. He planned to nurture another apostle. However, the Source-type power needed to perform the Source-type baptism on the Void Shadow Demon was already different from the Source-type power needed for the Class 5 Shi Teng and Class 1 Wendy. End of this chapter. Chapter 1095. In the process of communicating with the princess, he found out that dimensional life forms from Class 1 to Class 9 needed 100 units of source power for each Class 9 to undergo the source baptism. However, when a dimensional creature reached level 10, the Law Origin Crystal in its body would transform into a World Origin Crystal. In order to undergo a source baptism, every minor rank above level 9 would require 1,000 portions of source power. In other words, if he wanted to perform the source baptism on the Void Shadow Fiend, he would need to use 9,900 units of source-type power. It was equivalent to the source-type energy absorbed by the princess from 9,900 Law's Origin Crystals. Such consumption made Lin Yuan feel as though his balls were starting to ache. Perhaps 9,900 points of source energy would be enough for him to obtain a second sword skill. Lin Yuan decided to have a good talk with the Void Shadow Demon at night, and carefully weigh its value before making a decision. When he thought of Mystic Moon, the formless shadow demon, and the strange plant seed, he felt a chill run down his spine. Lin Yuan asked his master, the Moon Empress, about the undying seed that Endless Summer had mentioned. Master, is the power above the creation seed the immortal seed? Upon hearing that, the Moon Empress nodded, not surprised that Lin Yuan knew about the immortal seed. The Moon Empress had heard from Mystic Moon that Lin Yuan had a pinnacle myth 3 plant species Fae that had survived the creation calamity and become a creation breed. Since Lin Yuan had asked about the undying seed, which was above the creation seed, the Moon Empress explained it to him. When a mythical creature advances to the world of creation, the world derived from the world of creation will undergo 8 tribulations and fuse with the 8 world of creation earth veins. The world formed from a single law will then be complete. If you want to become immortal, you'll need to fuse your body with a world evolved from a single set of laws, turning your body into an immortal body. After that, you'll have a chance to reach the 9th stage of immortal. After listening to the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan finally understood what the immortal seed was all about. Since that strange plant life form seed had been absorbed by Red Thorn, Lin Yuan did not have a physical object to show to his master. He wanted to identify what the seed with the undying aura was. Therefore, Lin Yuan asked the Moon Empress in another way. Master, do the top powers have undying powers? Upon hearing Lin Yuan's words, the Moon Empress raised her brows and pondered for a moment. Currently, on the surface, the strongest combat power of the top forces is only at the Emperor's stage, but decades ago, the top 3 forces already had peak Emperor stage powerhouses. After so many years, it's not impossible for an Emperor peak ranker to become an undying ranker. Actually, it's not just the top 3. Even if the top 10 announce that they have an undying, I wouldn't be surprised. Upon hearing the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan secretly nodded. In that case, the whale ocean trading plant seeds with immortal aura was nothing to be alarmed about. Internal conflicts between forces were often the fiercest. Naturally, all means would be used. Thus, Lin Yuan did not mention the plant seeds again. After 2 hours of question and answer session with the Moon Empress, Lin Yuan was suddenly enlightened on many of the questions that he did not understand previously. His horizons had also broadened. Oftentimes, the Moon Empress would only need a few words of guidance to be able to explain things clearly. Seeing that it was about time, the Moon Empress took the initiative to stop the question and answer session. Little Yuan, it's almost time for your gathering. Don't let your friends wait too long. In addition, Little Yuan, you have the ability to concoct pure spirit chi. In that case, the golden silk emperor bamboo will not be of much use to you. When the time comes, you can decide how to use the golden silk emperor bamboo. Upon hearing that, Lin Yuan hurriedly looked at the time and realized that it was already 11 o'clock. There was less than half an hour before the agreed time with Zhong Zhe and the others. Lin Yuan reached out and grabbed his hair. He did not expect to actually forget the time during the question and answer session. Actually, Lin Yuan already had his own plans for the golden silk emperor bamboo. However, Lin Yuan had thought that it would not be good to casually deal with the golden silk emperor bamboo, since his master had given it to him. However, with the Moon Empress words, Lin Yuan did not need to have any psychological burden when dealing with the golden silk emperor bamboo. Before leaving, Lin Yuan took out the diamond face storage box that contained information on the 7 pages of war, the Pagoda Cannon, and the Dark Federation. He handed it to the Moon Empress and said, Master, this is the information that when you and I have obtained using a special method. Take a look when you have time. After saying that, Lin Yuan bid farewell to the Moon Empress and left the Leaning Moon Mountain. Through the ethereal jellyfish's ability node, he arrived at the entrance of Copper Crane Alley. After Lin Yuan left, the Moon Empress looked at the diamond face storage box in her hand and wondered what information Lin Yuan had for her. Naturally, the Moon Empress would not ignore the information that Lin Yuan had given her. The Moon Empress immediately took out a portion of the paper materials from the diamond face storage box and frowned after taking a look. The more she looked at the information that Lin Yuan had given her, the more shocked she was. The Moon Empress was not shocked that the Dark Federation had been destroyed by the 7 Pages of War. In fact, she had long known what had happened in the Dark Continent. When she had found clues about the Dark Continent in the Control Class 3 Abyss Dimensional Rift, the Imperial Court had immediately sent people to investigate the Dark Federation. It was at that time that the Imperial Court had gathered information about the Dark Federation. However, the information that the Imperial Court had was on a completely different level from the information that Lin Yuan had given her. The Imperial Court's information about the Dark Continent was only a general description of the Dark Continent situation. However, the information that Lin Yuan had given was a summary and survey of the situation from the most core position of the Dark Seven States. It even involved some of the Dark Seven States' core secrets. Wang Hui had also spied on these secrets. It could be said that the secrets that the Imperial Court had about the Dark Seven States were completely consistent with the secrets of the Dark Seven States in this information. This was the most powerful proof of the authenticity of this information. After receiving the pure spirit chi that Lin Yuan had given her, the Moon Empress had wanted to enter seclusion to strengthen her strength first. However, it now seemed that the information on the Dark Seven State secrets was so detailed that the Moon Empress felt that it was enough to hold another Imperial Court meeting to analyze this information. At that thought, the Moon Empress' expression suddenly became strange. In the past few months, there seemed to have been 3 Imperial Court meetings. However, these 3 Imperial Court meetings had a lot to do with her precious disciple, Lin Yuan. End of this chapter. Chapter 1096. After Lin Yuan arrived at Copper Crane Alley, he immediately felt the charm and texture left behind by years of polishing in Copper Crane Alley. In this early spring, the tongue flowers planted in Bronze Crane Alley were in full bloom. Outside Bronze Crane Alley, there was still a winter atmosphere, but inside Bronze Crane Alley, one could see the beauty of the world. The courtyards in Bronze Crane Alley occupied 300 to 500 square meters, while the large ones occupied 800 to 900 square meters. There were almost no courtyards that occupied more than 1,000 square meters. Among the courtyards of various sizes, each courtyard was designed to form its own scenery. However, Lin Yuan did not slow down while walking in Bronze Crane Alley while admiring the surrounding scenery. Just as Lin Yuan was strolling on the streets of Bronze Crane Alley, the surrounding pedestrians could not help but look at him. Today, Lin Yuan was wearing spirit chi clothes embroidered with ginkgo leaves and inlaid with moonstones as accessories. The light yellow fabric used for the spirit chi clothes was soft, matched with ginkgo leaves and moonstones. It had a bit of the gentleness and tranquility of falling ginkgo leaves under the moonlight. However, the cut of this soft spirit chi clothes was very tough. It caused the toughness and softness to collide on the body, giving off a different sense of youth and liveliness. Wearing it on Lin Yuan, his unique temperament was even more outstanding, and it also made his already young face look even younger. This set of spirit chi clothes had not been made for long, and it had taken Wen Yu a lot of effort to design it. It was also one of the clothes used by the Pinra house. Lin Yuan, who was walking on the road, did not notice that when he walked past, a few passers-by had already picked up their cell phones to secretly take pictures of him. There was also a young lady who looked as juicy as a crab robot. She immediately chose to log into StarWeb and post the photos she had secretly taken in StarWeb space. The young lady immediately edited and added a line of words above Lin Yuan's photo. I met a super handsome young man on the road. Because I'm a lady, I didn't dare to secretly take pictures of his front, so I only took pictures of his back. I took pictures of this young man, not only because I wanted his body, but also because I wanted to ask which weaver designed the clothes he's wearing. Is there a brand? I want to buy one for my ex-boyfriend and ask him to get back together. Lin Yuan, who was walking, had unknowingly become a scenery in other people's eyes, as this young lady always shared some photos of handsome guys on the StarWeb space. She had a stable group of LSP fans. Lin Yuan's background photo had attracted the attention of these LSP fans in a short while. In the eyes of the ISP fans, the handsome guy in the photo belonged to someone else. But after he pasted and copied the photo, the handsome guy was his. In a short period of time, photos of Lin Yuan's back view were crazily reposted. Among them, there was no lack of LSPs who pursued spirit chi clothing. These LSPs also had a strong interest in the spirit chi clothing that Lin Yuan was wearing. After walking for almost 10 minutes, Lin Yuan looked at Zhongzai's address on his cell phone and confirmed that he would be able to reach courtyard number 18, where Zhongzai was. At that moment, Lin Yuan suddenly heard a familiar voice calling his name behind him. "Haha, Lin Yuan. I always thought I was the last one to arrive. Now that I've met you, it means that at least I'm not late." When Lin Yuan turned around, he saw Gao Feng holding a basket and rushing toward him. When he arrived in front of Lin Yuan, Gao Feng opened the basket in his hand like he was presenting a treasure. Lin Yuan saw 8 thumb-sized, grayish-brown fish inside. These small fish looked extremely inconspicuous. At most, there were layers of dark, gray heart-shaped patterns on their bodies. After seeing the heart-shaped patterns, Lin Yuan suddenly thought of something. He immediately used Morbius True Data to investigate the 8 small fishes. After the investigation, Lin Yuan could not help but exclaim, "It's actually an 8-tailed heart-sound fish." Gao Feng was a little surprised when he heard Lin Yuan's exclamation. The heart-sound fish was abnormally rare, and perhaps even some creation masters had not heard of it. Furthermore, the heart-sound fish looked ordinary and was almost no different from the wild fish in the ditch. Gao Feng did not expect Lin Yuan to recognize the heart-sound fish with just a glance. Lin Yuan's eyes were too sharp. At that moment, Gao Feng recalled Lin Yuan's performance in the civil and martial duels and felt that everything could be explained. Lin Yuan looked at Gao Feng and did not know where Gao Feng had gotten such a good thing like the heart-sound fish. The heart-sound fish was a type of fish fae that could strengthen one's spiritual force and make one's mind more resolute. It was also an ingredient. After eating the heart-sound fish, one's spirit would have a strong resistance against negative temptations. Although he had Morbius calm mind, the heart-sound fish was useless to him. However, one couldn't deny the rarity and preciousness of the heart-sound fish. When Gao Feng saw that Lin Yuan was looking at him, he laughed heartily. "My father mailed these to me through ostrich logistics from Wind Mist City. I'm in such a rush because I'm waiting for these 8 heart-sound fish. Each of us will eat one of these 8 heart-sound fish. When I go to the abyss in the future, even if I'm attacked by charm demons, I won't be immediately controlled by them." From Gao Feng's words, Lin Yuan could feel Gao Feng's frankness and sincerity. Because the heart-sound fish was beneficial to everyone, Gao Feng packed it up and brought it over. Gao Feng had taken the 8-tailed heart-sound fish because he wanted to befriend Gulang and Zhongzai. Now that Gao Feng was already Her Majesty's disciple, there was no need for him to please anyone. This meant that everything Gao Feng did was sincere. Upon seeing the smile on Gao Feng's face, Lin Yuan also smiled and said, "We're not late. We're not late. There's still 10 minutes until the appointed time. 10 minutes is enough for us to rush over." When they arrived at Copper Crane Alley's 18th courtyard, Lin Yuan realized that it was not the largest courtyard in Copper Crane Alley. The decorations inside were not as exquisite as the other courtyards. Tang Zhu and Grapes did not take care of the gourds planted in front of the courtyard very carefully. Some of the old leaves had already fallen to the ground because they had dried up. However, Zhongzai's courtyard's decorations revealed a warm and leisurely feeling. It was this leisurely feeling that made people not feel the slightest bit restrained when they came to Zhongzai's courtyard. There was a long, gold-threaded jade table in front of the main residence. Gulang, Long Tao, Li Xian, and Sun Ningxiang were sitting at the gold-threaded jade table. Upon seeing Lin Yuan and Gao Feng walk in, Gulang hurriedly went forward to help Zhongzai entertain Gao Feng and Lin Yuan. As the courtyard's owner, Zhongzai was also today's chef. He was cooking the Kitchen Fragrance Palace's 300 dishes non-stop in the kitchen and did not have time to come to the courtyard to entertain the guests.